on February 20th, 2025. A quorum is present with all board members present except April Martinez and Cindy Martinez. This meeting has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Mr. Hughes, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes.
Okay. Right to there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's pray. Dearly Father, we just thank you that we could come here today and thank you for this school board and for their opportunity to be able to serve this community and its children. Please guide their thoughts and their words and their actions as they work together to do the good of those entrusted into their care. Grant them wisdom and compassion and a unity to make decisions that impact our students, our teachers, and the community. May they always strive for fairness and equality. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have anybody stand
No,
up?
ma'am.
Okay. I think we'll do the student staff recognition.
Coach Ramos, I am going to bump y'all up a little bit. We're going to flip it since we got all the parents here to be
Yes, sir.
respectful of them. So you are up, sir.
All right, so tonight we're going to recognize the sports that have already come to a conclusion, including those that took place in the fall, and just kind of give a synopsis of what's going on in athletics and all the things that we're trying to accomplish. The one thing that I can say that I've had I've been fortunate to be a part of is a lot of great kids that come from great households that are, reflecting, what we do in athletics on a daily basis with great character and integrity that it takes to be a student athlete. And so I want to say just that athletics as a whole is heading in a good direction. We've got, kids that have a very positive outlook on what they're doing. We're accomplishing great things. A lot of things that haven't happened in a while that we're very proud of. So I'll start with football. And this year, we started the season out. I'm pretty brand new to the place and into the program, and I've inherited a lot of kids who really don't know what to expect and what to do. And I can tell you that they embraced me really good. Without their attitudes and without the great character that they had already instilled in them, we would not have been able to experience the success that we did at the tail end of the season. And the success that we experienced at that time was at the most important time. We had a few times in the season where, they had the opportunity to say, this is not going as good as I wanted it to. It's not going good. It's not the expectation I had. And to walk away, but our kids did not do that. They kept fighting, kept getting through that adversity. And when it counted, when it meant the most, what they put into and the type of kids that they were was on display. And we were able to win the district championship for the first time in 23 years. I credit that solely to them. They embraced what I did, their attitude about it, and the work that they put into it is going, they should receive all the credit for that. And I really appreciate them, every single one of them. Those seniors that came in that did not know anything about me made me feel like I had known them my whole life. And so for that, I'm very proud and really proud of them for. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and go over our all-district selections. And so, fellas, when I call your name out for football, if you'll just please stand up and be recognized. We'll start with the District 3, 2-3A MVP for the whole district was Silas McCurley. He was voted at. That was unanimous. I asked anybody if they wanted to nominate anybody else, and nobody decided to do that. So Silas McCurley was the district MVP. We had offensive co-MVP that was split with him and a young man from Denver City. Benito Barrios, our running back, was the co-offensive MVP. And the defensive MVP for the district. We did a clean sweep on the superlatives. District MVP for the district was Xavier Zarola. And so those were really neat. And the all-district selections on defense, first-team linebacker, Hector Zamora. First team corner, Zayvon Boyd. First team corner, Jamilas Johnson. First team defensive lineman, Ruben Cardoza. First team defensive back, Brendan Kibler. Second team linebacker, Mr. J.J. Morales. Second team linebacker, Adam Garcia. Second team linebacker, Jacoby Demas. And second team defensive lineman, James Salceda and Ivan Gutierrez. Offensively, and write all these down. Yeah, it's a good day for us, that meeting. You know, they wanted to hurry up and get out of there. And I was saying, no, let's keep doing this. I'm liking this. The offensively, first team quarterback, first team All District quarterback, Daniel Ramos. First team running back, D.V. Lugo. First team wide receiver, Xavier Vela. First team wide receiver, Malachi Gutierrez. First team offensive lineman, Hilario Ortiz. First team offensive line, Jordan Martinez. Second team wide receiver, Jeremiah Rubio. Second team wide receiver, Jaden Jaramillo. Second team offensive line, Cutter Clement. Second team O-line, Lucas Acosta. We also had a specialist, Mr. Joe Carpenter, was also first team kicker for that. So, yes, we had a kicker, and he was pretty good. I found him. He was out there playing around. They told me he was from Palestine. And I said, Palestine? What are you doing? Saw his number's 903, so I was like, I know that's East Texas. Where are you from? He said, well, I just moved in from Palestine. I said, really? He said, what are you doing here? He's running track. He said, yeah, I run track. Well, they don't have soccer around here. So you played soccer? Yeah. So you ever kicked football? A little bit. So went out there, he booted it, got it through the upright. Good, you're hired. I was only about 20 yards out from the extra point, but I took it. It was good. We had a chance there. And he did a great job. It helped our special teams quite a bit. Coach Hudson and Coach Jones are working a playoff game. We've had a slew of playoff games come through here, and so they are working and Coach McCall as well. They're working the games. They're facility administrators, working the video board. And we got a lot of work going on over there right now. So I had to be here, so they're covering for me. And so I appreciate them. So I'm going to speak on behalf of boys basketball, and I believe Coach Torres or Chris, there you go. They're going to speak for the girls basketball and the girls programs.
Well, hold on. We didn't clap for Silas because I thought we were going to hold the applause. So we got to clap for Silas. I thought we were holding it till the
we
end.
should also, Coach Ramos was Coach of the Year in the district. And then Coach Ramos also received the Dawson County Award for Coach of the Year. And our whole staff is Staff of the Year.
Staff of the
I
Year,
believe.
yes.
And that, guys, I've been a football coach a long time, and that amount of awards is not normal. So we're really proud of our young men and our coaches.
They played really well. Really proud of them. Got a statement that Coach Hudson left for you guys and for the players. Thank you for allowing us to promote the boys basketball program. First of all, I want to say I'm extremely proud of all of our players for allowing me to coach with the passion I have for basketball. I am grateful for all the effort you gave this year. The abrupt start to the season gave us all the reason to believe that the season was going to be a tough one. Many times we had an opportunity to completely give up, and we did not. We stuck through the adversity and success as a team. I do not want us to look at the record and believe that the outcome of the season is a reflection of us as people. The character and commitment you show to one another is a trait that is going to lead to multiple championships in the near future. I cannot thank our one senior, Isaiah Martinez, enough for demonstrating to our young players what commitment to your program and school is supposed to look like on a daily basis. I know it had to be hard losing your coach that you have had for so many years your senior year. Change is always hard, but in my conversations with Coach Moreland about you, he said great things, and you never let him down. Thank you, Isaiah. We are extremely young this year, and we learned a lot. We were extremely young this year, and we learned a lot. To all of you returning, we have not even started our race. The future for the program is limitless. Until all of you, okay, I'm sorry.
Need readers?
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Okay. And to all of you returning, our future is limitless. We had an abrupt end, and we were eliminated from the playoffs. And due to that, I am not free to disclose our all-district selections until all the teams have been eliminated. But I can say that Lamesa was represented well when the meeting was over. Thank you for your time, Coach Boston Hudson. So the all-district selections happened, and until I believe Brownfield, I think home is still in. All that's got to be done first before he can announce that. But very, very proud. Just being there for every game, watching how our kids, had to handle going through the change, and that's hard. We've had the same head coach in that program for 16 years, and a lot of relationships were built, very strong relationships, and for that change to come, and the kids going through that, learning a lot about each other, a lot of learning took place. I was very proud, and like Coach said, and I agree with that the most, that the outcome of any one season or your record is not a reflection of who we are as people. And I can tell you those kids work very hard. They represent their families well when they come to us. And I can't say enough good things about all the kids that participated in basketball. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to the girls' sports, volleyball.
I would like to commend your football team, not just because of the winning and everything, but I've said it to Mr. Ritchie and to the board several times off. But to see the way the kids acted, the amount of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, the amount of flagrant penalties that we did not receive this year compared to the past was very noticeable. And I think officials noticed it. I think the area noticed it. I know an Odessa coach, I was talking to him, and he said things have changed as far as attitude and culture. And it did notice. I mean, I was impressed. Even when we lost, I've seen some meltdowns, and it was fun to watch. The scoring was fun. I saw we are fourth most improved or third most improved in the state in scoring.
Yes,
so I'm excited.
Well,
what are your numbers returning?
We got 8 returning on offense, and I think 4 on defense. I'm losing a lot on defense. So that's going to be the big plus. So defensively, we are losing a lot. And those kids were the backbone of our team. I do want to say this, that you think about what JJ's going through, and that's his attitude that he brings every day. And he talks to, the conversation I'm having with him, he's going through a tough time, but you wouldn't know it. And that's our kids. I mean, that's who got us through the season, is kids like that. And if you get an opportunity to talk to him, see him, you won't know he's going through that if you're talking to him on the phone. But you want to know why we're able to do that? Those kids. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Young people, when you're called, and there's a lot of working and practices going on, those that could be here are here, but once we're done, we want to picture all of y'all up here, so don't run out the back door. And this is Athletics A. We'll have Athletics B later on in the spring, and we'll make sure we recognize all the other sports. With no further ado, Sky, Coach.
If it's anything like practice, when it's over, they're gone.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling them. I'm sitting by the back door over there. I'm picturing y'all before y'all leave.
It's like our last period bell. We take on. First off, I want to thank the school board, the community, the district for all the love and support we had this past season. I'm always going to say progress is the key. Of course, winning, we love to win, but progress is always something that I look forward to seeing every year. And I'm always going to say this too, like 3 years ago. 3 years ago before I became head coach, our volleyball team only won 3 games. And so when I became head coach, it was 7. And then the next year, it was 12. This year was 13. So next year will be 14 or 15. But, progress has always been great. Unfortunately, we didn't get the outcome at the end. It's always that second Brownfield match. Always. I don't know. We're always competing with Brownfield. But, I saw how much the girls still wanted to play at the end, and so that's always a win for me. Our goal is always in athletics to see our players grow more on and off the court, and to become great people, and to keep fighting for what they love and their goals, and of course to never give up. So, I have brought with me, if they're here tonight, 4 great athletes that represented our volleyball program on the court and off the court with their leadership and talents to help with our success this past season. We just finished with softball. Good. So these are also the 4 girls were also named district in our District 3A volleyball. Did anybody see? Our district is rough. It's very rough. We play teams like Odessa and Denver City who girls play all year round. And as you can tell, like Mariella's in track, basketball, these girls just came from softball. So we do but what we can, and I'm absolutely so proud of every single one of them. All the girls, 7th grade and up. So hopefully this next season will be our season. All right, so I have senior Zoe Cifuentes. She was named first team setter. And if you remember last year, she didn't get to play as much because she had an injury. So that was good to get her to come play. I also have senior Mackenzie. She was district honorable mention defense. So I'm very proud of her. She was one that grew as a volleyball player and on the court for us these past 2 years. And then I have sophomore Mariela Gonzalez, who is district honorable mention for outside hitter. Fortunately, she had an injury that we had to sit out. She's getting stronger every time I see her, and she's a sophomore, and so I hope that we can get her strong enough to be a great volleyball player in the next 2 years. And then, I don't know, is Nadia here? Nadia is another senior who was named Nadia Garcia, Coach Garcia's daughter. She was second team defense. And just like Coach Ramos, I'm graduating all my defensive players. I'm anxious to start, I'm graduating my setter, my all-around setter. And so I am anxious to see what my lower levels will bring up. I love rebuilding. I love starting over, and we'll see. So, thank you.
Good job, man.
No, she's on her way. You want to talk? Because I have her hands. Oh, it's okay.
So this was what Coach Jones wanted to say? Okay. So Coach Jones said, I would like to take the time this time to thank all of the community and school board members for all of your support. It is always an honor getting to represent Lamesa ISD through basketball. This season, we saw incredible teamwork, unwavering determination, and major growth in each player. Even though we faced some tough opponents this season, we always played with grit and never gave up. Beyond the wins and losses, we grew as athletes and individuals, learning valuable lessons about commitment, resilience, and the power of Christ. This season wasn't just about basketball. It was about building character, forging friendships, and creating memories that will last a lifetime. Even though we did not have the outcome that we had hoped for, this season showed us that we do have the potential and we will be successful. Thank you for the opportunity to get to coach such a great group of young women. It is a blessing and honor, Coach Jones.
Thank you for reading that. What do you have to say, Rusty?
I'll just say that the same thing as Coach Jones, like basketball is like more of just like dribbling and shooting the ball. It's like building like your character, helps you with like your integrity, your work ethic, and much more.
This season, we only had 3 returning varsity players, so it was a very big learning season for all of us and the younger classmen. So it took time to get used to everything, but we all had growth. Every single one of our players had growth on the whole team. So it was a great learning experience, and can't wait for next year.
I'm also going to say it's not easy for kids to get up and talk to the school board. So thank y'all very much. Good?
We good?
So the way we've divvied this up, because we can't do all athletics at once, we did the ones that are ending now. Then we'll come back and like cross country, track, tennis, softball, baseball. We'll recognize them later on in the year. But I want to thank you all for coming. If you were introduced, kids, come up here. And parents, we're going to take pictures of them, and then everybody's free to go, except for the
Well,
people
hold
that
on.
have to
I
stay.
just wanted to tell y'all kids that I am so proud of y'all. I can't say much because I've known majority of y'all since y'all were like in flag or cheerleading or pee-wee, so I don't want to cry. But y'all represent me so well, and I'm so proud of y'all.
So, if you are a student athlete in the room, come on up here. It's kind of empty and the door's closed. I'm going to introduce, we've got two people from the service center today. Two people I think a lot of. We've got Kathy Palmer and we've got Wayne Blunt. Y'all know Wayne. He's been out here to do board training before. I've talked to y'all a lot about a grant that we're doing called Texas Strategic Leadership. It was one that we almost paused, but I've also said a lot that to me it's the most important thing we're doing. And so we had a meeting a while back where they came and they did walkthroughs in how many classes were they in?
We did like 71
71 walkthroughs looking at everything we do. They took assignments with them to see where our rigor was at, to see where our teaching was at. They looked at our procedures, our routines, and they saw what I keep telling everybody is existing, and that is that we've laid a good foundation. Now we're just getting ready to really take off. I tell people all the time, we have filled the rocket ship up with gas. Now we just got to blast off. And I just wanted them to come and kind of talk about what they saw, because y'all hear it from me all the time. I think it's way more important to hear it from somebody that has no stakes. Well, you do have stakes in Lamesa, but an outsider that has no reason to get up here and lie about anything. And I wanted y'all to hear that we are doing a lot of really good things and getting this thing going the right way. So, Ms. Palm.
Thanks.
And you can just click in there and it's ready. It's ready
Okay.
for you.
I always mess these up, so warning you in advance. Yeah, like you said, I'm Kathy Palmer, and I'm with Region 17, and it has been a privilege to work through this process with Mr. Ritchie and his team. Jamie and Stacy and Curriculum and Instruction Special Ed were very supportive throughout the whole process, and it's been really, really positive. And they're doing a fantastic job. So, my pleasure to brag on them.
Thank you.
But I do, not pointing. See, I told you.
It wasn't working. We'll go toss it to me. I got you. You just talk. I'll get you back on.
I'm sorry. Before I delve into what we saw at Lamesa, I would like to give you some context, and I'm not good at podiums, so I would like to give you some context about what TSL is, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's Texas Strategic Leadership. Every regional service center in the state has the opportunity to offer this grant, and it's no cost to the district. So this is being provided to you this year at no cost. And these are all of the participants in the state. This is the second year of the program. We're in the middle of the second year of the program. And in Region 17, we have Lamesa and Wilson. Okay, so this looks like a really intimidating graph, but it's very important to understand where TEA got the idea for Texas Strategic Leadership. And what they did is they went to these school districts up in the right quadrant, and they looked at those districts because they scored high on STAR, but they're high economically disadvantaged students. So they went to those school districts and they said, okay, what are the common elements of these school districts so that we can figure this out and kind of steal, for not a better word, these ideas and what they're doing. So they looked for commonalities, and that's where this is grounded in, are these ideas, these commonalities that they realized in this quadrant. So basically, it is grounded, the EDF, which is the framework that we use, and student outcomes is the goal. We want positive student outcomes. So we want students to have positive outcomes, not only on the STAR test, of course, that's a measure, but we also want them to have positive outcomes to be prepared for life, be able to communicate, be able to be hired upon graduation. So student outcomes is our overarching goal, but how do you get there? It's based on the student experience, their day-to-day experience in the classroom and on the campus. The only way you can develop that kind of positive student experience that leads to positive outcomes is by having campuses that have aligned systems that are working together. Okay, sometimes you'll have this great program, and it's really a great program, but if it's not working with other things that are going on in the campus that are good, it kind of is just a Band-Aid. So it's that system has to work together. And then ultimately, you have to have an aligned district system. So the campus can't be aligned until the district is aligned. So that's kind of how that's grounded. Now, what did they find in that quadrant? In those school districts that had high performance and they were high economically disadvantaged, about 80% economically disadvantaged, up to 100% economically disadvantaged. They found that there were 6 levers. And if you look at that diagram over there, they had a vision. Okay, so these districts had a vision. They had a goal for their kiddos and for the district. They concentrated on the day-to-day life of their students. So it went to that student experience. Okay, there were elements in there where they were looking at, okay, if I'm sitting in that classroom, what am I feeling as a student? They looked at the academic experience. That entails, like their academic progress and their actual lessons and things like that. That integrated student supports are the support systems that benefit all kids. Okay, so those 504 kids, special education kids. So they integrated those kids into Tier 1 instruction, the basic instruction, intentionally. And then they also found that they had a talent system in place, so they were recruiting and retaining their staff. It's a big one, recruiting and retaining your staff. And then the second one there, instructional and leadership capacity. So you had leaders that had buy-in and that were committed to the district and to this vision that the district had. And then finally you had strong finance and operations. So that group of the upper quadrant school districts had these 6 different levers. And so that's how they've grounded the EDF system that we're working with the district. So what do? The ESC provides coaching, executive coaching, so we can, like one-on-one coaching, or it can be group coaching. We have learning labs where LaMesa can go and visit quality programs like those districts in those quadrant. Or last year, like I said, this was the second year, you can visit with other ones that have gone through the process. And I believe that Mr. Ritchie went this year. And then it's a cohort model, so we're a team. So like he's in this group of school districts that are going through this together so that they can talk about what's going on. And then one of the favorite things, which we've just completed, and he was speaking to, was the landscape analysis, and that's looking at data. And then finally, we help with the planning and performance management tied to what we find from the landscape. So it's a 4-part process. First, we look at our current state. That's the landscape analysis. So we look at STAR scores. We look at MAP scores. We also look at observation in the classroom. We look at assignments. We look at as much information as we can collect. That's the first step, which we have completed here. And then the second step are, what are our goals? And we met with him and his leadership team, and we have some goals that we've created, but they're in the infancy. We're just working with them, and I am going to share them with you tonight. But remember, these are not solid. I don't think that we've checked, yes, these are them yet, but we're fairly happy with them. The third is we look at aligning the system. So the question becomes, if these are our goals, if this is what we want, is every system helping our kids have positive outcomes, and you align it to that. And then how do we execute the strategic plan? So how are we rolling it out? And that's a management issue. That's talking about money. That's talking about resources and how we roll it out. So that's the 4-step process. He kind of talked about this, but we did visit at campuses. We looked at your mission. We saw the surveys, and we just looked at your curriculum documents and etc. So this is what we found in grades K through 5. The TEKS were 85% aligned to the instruction. That's good. That's actually a positive. So your curriculum is solid. That's what that means. The curriculum that the district has is aligned to the TEKS. That is foundational. But some areas that we recognized as growth areas, we call it RBs. It's called rigorous instruction is all that is. That's what that means. Was rigorous instruction happening in the classroom for students? And you'll see there it's 41%. That's what we saw. The high quality assignments, they were at 37%. So what's interesting about this is you are TEKS aligned, okay, in reading, you're TEKS aligned, but you need supports and helps and a concentration in raising instruction to rigor, to make the kids really think about what they're learning. And then you also may need some help in developing high quality materials that drive them to that thinking. And then in math, look at that. 100% of the assignments that were sent are aligned to the TEKS. 100%. That's a celebration. That's huge.
It's just not where we were. And that's important to say. That is not where we came from.
Well, you are here now, and we were excited because no other one that we have, now we haven't talked to every school in the state, of course, that's in this, but our little cohort that we work with, that is really something to be proud of because 100% alignment in math, that means your curriculum is solid. It's good. And then look at the areas to grow. Again, it goes to the RBs and the high quality assignment. Okay? So, because of this, on the next slide, I think you'll, well, no, this is a little bit more of the data.
Sorry.
Yeah. The teacher experience. This I find interesting. And it is something that may alert us to how we might support you. Because on your teacher experience, 0 to 2 years is the 13%. 6+ years is 40%. And 3 to 5 years is 47%. What I think is interesting and might be an area of why you're not getting to that high quality instruction that's driving rigor is because most of your teachers have less than 5% of experience.
So when you're talking experience, are y'all basing it off experience at Lamesa ISD, or could a teacher have 2 years, 2 years
No.
somewhere, 2 years here?
It's from the time they started to now.
Total
In
experience,
education.
total
From here
teaching,
to
no
here.
matter where you
So if
go.
somebody was at a school south of here for 2 years and then came here for 2 years,
They'd be in that.
you're
They'd be more
right.
three,
They could
five.
be your 4, so that could still be an issue because
They're still us. They're still new to our systems
right
and our
learning
stuff.
Yeah.
stability.
Exactly. And then the one that's really interesting is your principal experience. So 75% of your principals have 0 to 2 years experience. And as a former principal, you're just getting your little understanding in your second year because it's a tough job. They're doing a great job, but it is a tough job. And so that support, they may need some more support in that particular area so that they can grow.
Can I say something, Kathy? Earlier she made the comment about coaching us. What she means is coaching us on how to teach our teachers, if that makes sense. She is coaching our administrators on how to coach our teachers. I think that's important to note.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah.
And on the previous slide, excuse my ignorance, when you said on the growth, what does that mean? Like you said, we need extra help with the two bottom ones. What is that?
The Arby's where it says
Like, what does that mean?
that's instruction. That is like the classroom instruction.
Rigor.
They're not-
Rigor.
they're not
Rigor. Do you remember the time Mr. Gensler was talking about soft toss and questions?
Yes.
That's the same conversation. We're trying to increase
So
the
you're saying
rigor.
that we meet TEKS, which is amazing, but our instruction in class just is not strong enough.
it's
or
not challenging them
challenging
to
enough. Or, okay.
So, like, if you're
It's
asking a
tough.
question, the questions are very surface.
Okay.
Yes, no. Instead of saying, can you justify why you're saying that? You're not getting to the deeper level of thinking.
But that is why when we talked about all the PD we've been doing, it's to teach the levels of question because we're trying to get our teachers comfortable going to that next level.
So the assignments, the way I understand it, our curriculum is state aligned with TEKS.
Yes.
So when you're talking assignments, is that the stuff the teachers are given to the students for instruction?
Yes.
Okay.
They were actually assignments. They couldn't be tests. They couldn't be like bell ringers. They were actual assignments that were given to the kids too. And that's what was evaluated. And 100% of them are aligned with the TEKS. Good questions. All right, so what's amazing about Lamesa and something that should be celebrated is there is a lot of building blocks in place. Y'all have a lot of good foundational things that are here. And I highlighted a couple of them. And one of them is the leadership expectations. Just the whole leadership team. They have created a climate that they want to. It's a growth mindset that's so hard. I know growth mindset, people go, But, really, they are wanting to learn. And they are challenging the campuses to do better. And they're doing that by reaching out to the ESC and providing them professional development. So the expectations are there, and that's huge. There's a positive climate overall in the campuses because and the team even commented when we left that how it was so evident that the teachers love their kids. There's a lot of positivity. They really care about what they're doing, and they really care about their kids. That's a very positive thing. There are lots of resources available. So, there's a lot of resources, not just for Tier 1 instruction, which is your general instruction, but you also have Tier 2 resources and Tier 3 resources. So there's a lot that we can use. And then CCMR initiatives are outstanding. Wow. Kudos to the school board for taking those steps to do a lot of this. Because it's really quite impressive what's going on in the high school with your pathways and just with the facility. It's really nice. So you have the pathway development, you have a high school alignment, and then your PTEP program. Those are things that, those are awesome. And very few schools take the initiative to do that because it's hard. That's a lot of work. And so, really, you should be celebrating that. Your TEKS alignment, that's a no-brainer. That makes what we need to do a lot easier because you aren't going to have to choose a curriculum. You're not going to have to go out there and go through a bunch of materials. You have it already. And then your talent system initiatives, such as the residency, the Grow Your Own, the TIA. Those are really good recruitment and retention programs. And again, they take a lot of time, and you should be proud that y'all are taking those initiatives to do that. So looking at, how I told you they identified those 6 things. So we took that landscape analysis information, and we identified, okay, what 3 things do we think would be most productive for Lamesa ISD? And you'll see the little arrows. We felt like integrated student supports, so in the classroom supports would be beneficial. Looking at that academic experience and building rigor where those kids really had to struggle through questions. And then the instructional capacity building, like building them up so they're prepared and confident in the classroom and on the campus to be successful. We didn't do talent systems because you have so much already, and they're good quality things. And then your performance management, that's the leadership. You already have a vision. You already had a goal and a mission statement, so we don't have to go there. And then finance and operations are in good. So once we pulled out those three, we looked at the priorities of each. So like priority 1, the academic experience, we looked at having a coherent multi-tiered system of support. You again, going back, you have the curriculum. It's just building in, okay, how can we support the kids that aren't performing at the level that they can? Tier 1 instructional strategies for all learners. So this is the PD for your teachers of how to do that. And then coherent extended time tutoring and interventions. So those kids that are not being successful, building in some really good tutoring and intervention support. Priority 2, early childhood programming, looking at the littles, family support, and early identification. And then priority 3, instructional capacity, curriculum-based training. Now, why we say that is because they may have really good curriculum, and it is TEKS aligned, but do these teachers that have 1 or 2 years experience really understand how to take that material and do a really strong lesson that can drive that thinking? And then instructional delivery, and then planning supports. So student outcomes goals, we did establish some goals. Third grade students would increase from 40 to 56%. Third grade math would increase from 21 to 38%. And this is on the meets.
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 Yeah, there you go.
Not just proficient. Meets. And then the percentage of students on CCMR will increase from 76 to 95%.
So you're saying it takes about 4 years before we start?
Any kind of strategic planning takes up to 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, because, like shifting a boat, when you're talking about a system, it's not a quick thing.
But that doesn't mean, Rebecca, that we'll be 21, 21, 21, and then 38. Our goal is to go 21 to 24 to 28 to 32, and see progress as we go.
And these goals are, HB3 required you to write these goals. And so we did these back in 2019, but then we had COVID in between, and now we're at the end of the 5 years. So now it's time to redo these goals, and these are written perfectly. So they do a great job there.
So
What's the percentage of where schools meet those goals that are part of this grant?
What, sir?
What percentage of schools on that map that are in this grant in past experience have met these goals in the 5 years?
Well, we're only in the second year, so they haven't really measured them, or they haven't released the information from year 1 to us. Certainly, when I receive any kind of data like that, I can share it with Mr. Ritchie.
But let me add that our reading goal that was set in 2019, we met this year. That 40% was what y'all set in 2019, and we reached that this year. So that one's already been met. So that 40 to 56% is the next step in that goal. Math, we didn't quite get there, but we did meet the reading one.
And so these were some things that we got together thinking about the children and the students. So again, you remember I told you we kind of created some, but we haven't solidified them. We're just kind of throwing them out there right now and working through that. So every day, each student learns in a safe environment that includes hands-on, interactive activities that lead to actively engaged, successful students. So developing a culture where kids are they're learning, they're participating with each other, they're talking, they're creating things together. Every day, each student has learning experiences that are fun, joyful, yet challenging, resulting in a productive struggle. So we want them to be enjoying what they're doing, but we also want to challenge them to think to the point that it's kind of hard, like they're having to struggle to get through it. The third, every day each student experiences innovative lessons that encourage risk-taking, independent exploration activities that are personalized to meet the needs of each learner. So I like the independent exploration activities so that you're meeting their individual needs. And then every day, each student has opportunities to pursue interests and passions while building confidence, teamwork, leadership skills through a variety of courses, including extracurricular activities that create a well-rounded student. So, and I'll leave you with this quote by Jim Collins. I love this. Greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. And I really want to thank Mr. Ritchie and his team for taking that conscious choice and working with us. It's going to be a great and successful thing that we're going to be doing. So y'all have any questions for me?
Are you guys done with the walkthroughs already, or are y'all going to continue with walkthroughs?
No, we are finished with the walkthroughs.
Okay.
So now what's the next step, or what is it that
So
takes place next?
the next step is we get together and we solidify those goals, not the goals, but what the student, the statements of what the student will be experiencing. We'll finalize those. And then we will establish measurements for the goals that were written. That's the next step. Once you have the measurements in place, then you start doing the professional development, you start doing the coaching, the things that we think will turn the ship and aligning the system together. And actually providing those through the ESC.
Will y'all ever come back again, or is that everything? I mean, is that now something that we take over, or y'all are still?
We're still
working?
involved
Okay.
for next year.
Okay.
hmm And I'm happy to come talk to y'all whenever you want me to come. You just tell Mr. Ritchie and I'll be here. But great team you have. And really, this is going to be very, very good for this district and for these kids.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Wayne, did you want to add anything?
Well, I was just going to say that it is, as Kathy said, it's only the second year, and also inside Region 17, so they say it's the second year of this, but in reality there were about 10 regions that piloted it the first year, and the other 10 picked up this year. So you're our first you're really our first district inside Region 17. Wilson's also going through some of this, but you're more advanced than where they're at in some places. So we're further along with y'all than we are with them. And so I think you're doing a great job. There's multiple other places. Looking at that slide where you have your principal's experience, we have some teal. It's called teal, but basically where we can come through and walk with the principal, and then that kind of helps calibrate. Okay, what did you see? What did we see? And work through those types of processes. And I think we do a little bit of that, and that's a lot kind of what we did with the first observations. And so all of that works really well together, and we're excited that y'all are going to take that step. I think in the long run you'll see success. I walked through the little conference room back there a while ago, and it was written on the board up in there. I don't know who wrote it or whatever, but it said strategic change takes 3 to 5 years, and that's really important. I was talking to Mr. Ritchie today about that, and when you go to take a job like this, it's hard, because if you're going to get long-lasting change, it probably takes 5 years. And so if you come in and you start something and you do it for a year, or you do it for 18 months, and then you leave, and the next person comes in and doesn't pick it up with the same intensity level or whatever, you won't get the change. And so the fact that he's digging in and doing all this is really good, and I hope that you are able to keep him and continue that process, and you're able to keep your administrative team, because they've got the right approach and right process and doing great work. We see great things from a distance, and very proud of the work that they're doing.
He's not going anywhere.
He ain't going anywhere.
But regardless, and I've said this to y'all, the changes we're putting in, these are going to change pre-K kids' lives.
And that's where it starts.
And so whether I am dead in 5 years or still here, these changes have got to stick because it's going to change La Mesa. Not just the kids, it's going to change the town, and I firmly believe
Well,
that.
and I think Kathy hit up on it early on when she said, when the team left, you could see that your teachers love your kids, right? Okay. Well, that's the first step, right? Because the kids aren't going to learn unless they know you care. All right. That is the first part. So they're not going to pay. They're not going to put any belief into what you have until they know you really care. Right. So when you have that, you got the first part of that in there. That's a great piece to have. Now what we have to do is sometimes when we care, we want to help the kid out. So when they start to struggle or we get a little longer wait time than we're comfortable with, we want to help them along, and we got to get to the point where we let them work through that. And we got to get through. As an old calculus teacher, I was the worst. It's like, okay, well, I want them to learn the calculus piece of that, and then the last part of the assignment. If you look at any math book when you were in school, you had all these problems that were in there, and then the last 5 or 6 were all word problems, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to do those; they're too hard. We can't do that anymore. We've got to get that type of instruction into the assignments. And expected that they're going to complete those assignments and help them, give them the skills that they can do that and gain that confidence. Because once the kids start gaining confidence in that level, then you'll see it take off. So you've got all the building blocks, as Mr. Ritchie said. Or you got the rocket fueled. You're ready, and I think if you stay focused in that, you're able to get some pushback when the assignments get harder. I'm just telling you that as a board, right? So when the assignments come home and they're harder, Mom and Dad aren't going to be happy, right? When our kids struggle and they're not used to struggling, you may get some pushback with that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do what's best for those kids, that you've got the right plan set for this. And I truly believe that.
Most of the time, though, the pushback, does it look like mainly look, that teacher don't know what they're teaching, but that teacher's not teaching my kid right? Is that what?
Well, it'll come back as that my kid comes home and doesn't understand, so they're not teaching them in the school. We got to give them those skills to struggle through, and you saw great examples of perseverance from football and volleyball and all that tonight. We teach all those skills in the athletics, but that starts down the early grades. If we struggle and somebody does it for them, or we struggle and we let them get away with it, we don't teach that perseverance that we have to have, and we got to start teaching that at an early age and on the academic setting.
It's that talk we've had a lot, and we were saying this the other day. We talk all the time about, well, how come all of our kids are straight A students, but then we struggle on the STAR test? Well, they're straight A students because we're scared to let those students struggle. And we're scared, the teachers are scared to let those students struggle because they don't want to think that they're not teaching them. But I would much rather a kid struggle through those daily grades and see those STAR tests start to come up, because that tells me they're starting to think for themselves and they're starting to learn the perseverance necessary to be successful.
And I think that also, like, as a parent, I agree with everything y'all are saying, and I want to push towards that. But would it also mean, on the other end, as a parent, I would like to see what's going on in class? Like, right now, we don't get much homework, or I would like to see, like, if my child is going to be pushed harder, I would feel like we would need to be able, as a parent, be able to see, okay, well, how can I help you? Do you bring homework home, or do you have an example? Where are you at in class, besides me seeing it 3 weeks or 6 weeks that, we bombed this test? Would we need to increase communication
Always,
as parents
for sure.
As teachers to parents, and even teaching the kids, be a little more clear when it comes to notes, when it comes to, if you're taking a test on Friday, would it be possible to have a review on Tuesday or Monday, because it's going to be harder. So now the expectation is higher. Now the studying is going to be just a little bit harder.
But you've kind of said it in a nutshell, April, because if we want our students to grow, our teachers have to grow.
Right.
And what everything you just said is the growth of the teachers that we got to get whipped so that our students can start to grow. Is that fair enough?
Very fair.
Perfect.
It's kind of a double-edged sword because as an old math teacher, I wanted to send home homework every day, right?
Right.
The class time is instruction for me to teach you, but you got to practice that at home. Unfortunately, what research says is when I send that practice home,
It doesn't.
75% of the kids aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have somebody
I
do it
got to
for
figure out
them.
how to get that done in the classroom, right?
Oh, I know that. I agree with that 100%. I guess it's just for like the couple parents that will look
Sure.
at it.
Absolutely.
It
And that's
would
where your
make a
communication has to get.
tremendous difference, even if it's just one problem and you don't even have to bring it back.
Yeah, that's where your
Help.
communication has to get
Yes,
better.
yes.
So, fair enough.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Do
you.
y'all have
Thank you
anything
so
else
much.
for
Thank
them?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you so much, Wayne and Kathy. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for driving out.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for driving out. All right.
Agenda items.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Are we ready?
Yeah, cool. Yes.
I was joking with Ron. I'm just hopefully the days of me being the one doing this are going to come to an end pretty soon. I'm ready for someone else to get the questions. But again, just going page to page, I've told y'all this many times. I highlight things that stand out to me. The same 3 things on the first page that we've been highlighting since the jump, but we were ahead at the beginning on number 11, number 12, and number 51. Those are the ones I say all along. They get heavy upfront costs, and that's why they're at 45.94, 51.51, and 51.57. But they start leveling out, and everything else will catch back up to it. But for the most part, everything on that first page is on track. I'm going to kind of go through it and then let you ask questions towards the end. Because, guys, we've got a lot to get through tonight, and I apologize for that. I always think we're going to be able to have a fairly brief board meeting, and then I add and add and add. But I thought that was important. Y'all needed to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Going to the revenue year to date, that I'll be honest, I focus a lot more on the front page in the check registry than I do some of these other ones, because they kind of tell me the way that we're going. Monthly capital outlay, we had none. That's 2 blank pages right there. Going through the check registry, I always highlight a lot more than I go through. You can see how much I highlight. It's a lot. And when I have questions, I go visit with the people so I make sure I know what they are. I will tell you that no one is over budget. And that's what matters most to me is anything. You know, policing what they buy to an extent, but as long as they're staying within budget, to me, you're still accomplishing what you need to accomplish. We had a big heavy hitter down the middle of that, $71,008,112, but that's our Aramark Food Service Management Company fees. We've got our spring sports, still a lot of their stuff's going to be coming in. You're going to see a lot of baseball stuff, softball stuff, track stuff, tennis stuff. Going to that second page, I want to talk about the 67604, not because of what the cost is, but because of it's a program that I'm really excited about, that I'm kind of feel like I probably should have brought it up before. And Christy, I may have her talk about it, but it says iLead Books. Y'all see that right there? So iLead is something that Christy and Fleener did on their own without any prompting that I'm really excited about. And it's a program for our kids. And Christy, if you wouldn't mind, I was going to let you kind of talk about it a little bit because it's kid-led, and that's what I like most about it. But go ahead and kind of tell them what it is.
Sure. So iLead is a part of, it's John Maxwell, and it comes from his transformation tables, and I actually led our administrative team through an example of listening. And so the way the transformation table works, and they've done it literally all over the world and have now brought it to many schools, but it's led by the students, and it goes through different values. There's 3 different books, and then it has different grade levels. So there's a grade level 3 through 5, and then middle school has its own, and then they also have the same or similar values. I believe there's 16 in total. So in the class, it walks them through it. It gives them the exact script. It has different people take the leadership role, and teachers were responsible for setting up their groups, picking facilitators, and then really the students should run with it. Some of our classes are better at it. Some of them still try to help facilitate the conversations. Currently in 5th grade, I believe they're talking about self-discipline. And so I also check in with our kids when we have our principals advisory committee, and so they've reported back the things and the values that they've gone over. They look at choices, they look at growth, they look at self-worth, things like that. And the students go through and read about it and talk about their experiences, and they're also encouraged to set a goal. And then once they finish with the lesson, they come back and they share. If they've shared their goal, what it was, then they share with their group whether or not they were successful, and then how they'll, work towards their next goal in the next lesson. So there's like 3 basic lessons throughout a year, and it grows. And then there's also like opportunities to go out into the community and do things like that in the older grade levels.
Teaching kids, one, to self-facilitate, but man, there's a lot of skills these kids have never been taught that they're going to take success on. Down, I was pointing at you not for a bad reason. But as she was talking, I was like, well, we have a North teacher in the room too. You got anything you'd like to say, Don?
Yeah, the skill we're working on right now in my class is the kids are doing resilience. And so they've gotten really good at just at the first, since we've had Mondays off, the last 2 weeks, the first day of the week when we actually meet, we have our morning meeting. I just have a slide on the board that says, get your iLink books. They know where their groups are. As soon as morning meeting starts, they break into their groups. And I'm really just kind of sitting at my desk letting them do it because I don't want them to hold anything back because the teacher's, over their shoulder. It's really student-led. Sometimes they'll, come share with me what their goals are, how I can help them with them and stuff like that. But it's really, I don't want to say, stay hands-off, but I don't want to influence any of the conversations that they're having.
Because they're going to talk different when there's an adult there than they will when there's not.
Yeah, I think they'll be a lot more honest and get a lot more out of it if I'm not the one leading it.
So, that's what that is. Long story short. Legal fees have gone up a little, but there's a reason for that, which I'm going to get to in my superintendent report here in a little bit. And then the rest of that page is mostly spring athletic stuff getting started. Not a lot jumped out to me on page 3. Page 4, the biggest one that jumped out to me was the pads for the turf room. But if you'll remember, we knew that was going to happen when Raider Pump and Supply donated all of the turf. We said that we would finish it off because I need to take you up because there's batting cages in there, and we had to make sure those walls had the pads on it so there weren't holes getting put in the walls every time something happens. And yes, the cages keep it in there, but we've got tennis ball machine in there, and I'm not going to lie to you, my own son was in there firing off tennis balls over the weekend, and I stopped him after the fact. But if we had not had pads, he would have been just nailing the wall all across there because it was like he had a machine gun and he was just firing them off. But that's a really good room that's going to be used by a lot of people. And Mr. Coach Ramos kind of talked about that the last time he was here. Low electric bill this month, and I was really proud. I don't know if I've ever seen it under 20,000. So I was really happy. It's usually around 25 to 27. So that was a good thing.
Do we get a bill for each campus, or is it all
No,
together?
ma'am, it's all together. And sometimes there's 2 separate ones in there.
Yeah, I was going to say there was.
And that's usually because sometimes they have to settle up from the month, so you may see one.
Okay.
And then sometimes you'll see one that's like 75,000, but that's because there's several months combined.
Gotcha.
I know beforehand some people were talking about the Apple on page 5. That is for a whole app. That is not just for one computer chip.
So it's what was it?
On 67655, I am not a technology person, but we had to buy Apple M4 chips for some of the CTE computer labs that we had. But it was not just one computer. There were several computers. Gas, curriculum, those were all pretty normal stuff. Fuel was about normal, the top of page 6. That's about what it has been. The psychological evals are things that are on every month because there's a contracted service. Our water bill was also a little lower than normal. I was a little worried about pipes the last 3 days. I'm not going to lie, as it was cold, and I'm no Ernest, you're a water person, but I kept thinking I was going to walk into a campus and it'd be flooded, but nothing did, so we're all good, and I think the warmth is about to come back, and so everybody survived it. Again, on that, I thought the page 7 was pretty incident-free outside of a couple more.
On 6, the mats, we've never had mats, or what is that, the mats
No, ma'am.
needed for children?
I don't think the cheerleaders have ever had mats. Yes, ma'am. Mats are expensive. I had to buy one as a football coach, and it cost me $15,000 a while back. Page 8. Insurica is Chris Norris. TASB is the membership for us to belong to the Texas Association of School Boards. We have to do fire system maintenance. That's a required thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the legislative stuff because some of this reminds me of things that they're talking about. If you'll look on page 9, that $4,000 is a one-time fee for Gaggle. We set that up and it's rocking and rolling. That is now yearly around $2,000 for that first year. Everything's always more expensive the first time because they have to set it up. MAP growth was the PD that we had on our NWEA when we talked to y'all about how we're trying to teach our teachers how to go to that next level of using that stuff. And then on page 10, the roof repair at North Elementary, I'm not 100% sure on that one. Krista, do you know the details on that at all? I'll get details on that because that one I'm not 100% sure on what exactly that was, and I didn't have time to talk to them today. But again, overall register, this was one of the lowest ones we've had in a really long time at 361, 991, 33. Questions? And again, if I don't have the answer, I'll get the answer.
What?
We do have a donation from Headway Marketing LLC, $1,550 for back to school. I'm glad I looked up there because I always forget about the donation.
Oh, Mitchell.
I saw it on the paper and I figured it'd be coming for.
And we had no amendments and we had no purchases over $50,000.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
And it's back to me.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me pass this one off and get to the next one. I took the principals off tonight, guys, but they're here for questions because if I have something up here, I already knew how long it was going to be, but they're here to answer any questions as we go. I don't need my computer. I used to need my computer till I found this little nifty clicker. All right, so there's our enrollment as of today. We did add an LSA student. Our high school attendance rate dropped a little bit. All of them kind of dropped a little bit, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. We got hit pretty hard with strep, cold, and flu, and all that for a few weeks. I don't know that there was a day that I had a campus. North was usually the lowest, but they're also our lowest population. But even they were typically over 25. High school and middle were hitting 50, 60 kids a day. And we're starting to get to the far end of that. So hopefully the attendance rate will start going back up. This one's a big one because it's about to hit us. We're on the national news, West Texas is, because of the measles outbreak that started in Seminole. And I have a meeting tomorrow morning. All of the superintendents in the area have a meeting, and even the TEA, I have a commissioner's meeting today that he even brought it up. And it kind of gives you flashbacks of the COVID days because this has regulations that you have to follow on it. And I put that 5-day versus 21-day. If you, and I learned most of this from the Seminole superintendent, but I have talked to our people, and again, we have a meeting that has us all. If you have your measles vaccination, you have to miss for 5 days. But what Seminole is encountering is a lot of people that do not have their vaccination. And if you don't, you cannot come back for 21 days. That has also killed their attendance. And I got the call last week that they need to meet with us because evidently cases in Dawson County are starting to pop up. I don't know that we have any. I have not been told that Lemesa ISD does. But, I mean, guys, Seminole's only 30 miles down the road. And that thing spreads pretty quick. So I'll know more tomorrow. But I do know that 5-day versus 21-day, that is not a local law. That is state regulated. So if we get hit by it, that, you know, we're going to have to start looking. If we have, I hope we don't have many at that 21-day, but if we do, we're going to have to start figuring out some of that stuff on how to make sure those kids stay caught up at home. You know, stuff we haven't had to really worry about for a couple of years.
Well, do they do like virtual, or are they just?
Seminole's not gone that route yet, and Seminole's the one that's had the most of it. But, you know, I think April will wait and see. My hope is we don't have too many 21-dayers, you know, because to do virtual is a lot harder than just saying you're going to do it. It takes a lot of work behind that. So I hope when I meet with them tomorrow, I hear that maybe there's 1 or 2 cases and that's it, and they're not Lemesa ISD, but I do want us to be prepared for that to hit us. Because Seminole didn't know it was going to hit them. You know, it's hammered pretty good. But I'll know more tomorrow. But when you're on the national news, it's never a good thing. And West Texas is there. Okay, so wellness policy, it was attached. I also sent it in an email earlier in the week. Mary Elizabeth, it'll be in the folder that you get. I don't like to use the term formality, but you kind of have 2 of them on this week's agenda. You have the wellness policy, and then you have these TASB policy updates that just, they're things that just need to be approved. The wellness policy is just a really broad policy on how we take care of the health of our students and our staff. From the health that they eat, from the amount of recess they have, to the amount of PE they have, to all of that. It doesn't change outside of the names. You know, typically wellness policies are pretty uniform, but you got to make sure the names are updated as people change. So if y'all had time to look at that, it's very boring. It'll put you to sleep, but not as boring as the policies were if y'all actually tried to read those. Those were rough. Do y'all have any questions over the wellness policy? Because that one will be an approval item later on tonight. Then I also sent an email and had these attached. They're also attached to your board book, but these come from TASB. They go to every school in the state, and then they're just localized if we have local policies that kind of go against there. But it covered everything under the sun. If you looked at it, it covered everything from some of the purchasing stuff to security personnel to food and nutrition to special education. It had different policies that just, here's what's happening. If you're keeping up with politics, there's a lot of changes happening at the federal level. We'll talk about our level in a bit, but there's a lot of educational changes happening at the federal level. That's what all these are. That's the immediate impact of all of those. There's more changes coming, and so there's probably more policy updates coming. But that is what this is the result of. And I'm telling you guys, the landscape is changing greatly. And again, I'm going to talk about more of that in here in a minute. Do y'all have any questions over that? Perfect. All right. And if you have questions for the people behind me, do it to keep them awake. I didn't put this on there, but our PTAC application interview update. So today, the bottom part's exciting, but we have our applications in. We have our interview dates set. We were doing the interviews in 2 days. We ended up with about 27 people, which is enough that we could almost take them all. But I want to make sure they're serious about it, because I don't want to take somebody who's student and parents, because it ain't for the weak at heart, right? It's going to make great changes in their life, but they got to be committed to it. So I didn't want to just make it a blanket. Even if we take them all, I want them to go through the process of interview. So those 2 days are set up. I don't remember when they are, but March 10th and 12th. So it's the week before spring break, because we want to notify these parents before they go home for spring break if their kid made it. That way when they come back, they can get their schedule set at the high school. But part of this is these kids have to start taking the TSI earlier. What the TSI is it tells us if our kids are college ready. And we had 6th and 8th graders take it, and they already passed it. Guys, we got juniors that can't pass it. So it's already as exciting to me, because I'm a believer if we start testing them in 8th grade, we're going to have a whole lot more passing by the time they're freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. That also brings money to the school district because that is officially CCMR, which is accountability, which brings funding to the school district, which is another reason we're doing it. So, very excited. You want to talk about that
Well,
for a
we
minute?
just have all our kids practicing it. You know, they've been doing the practice ones and really getting excited, and their buy-in. Like after today, when we did a big shout out for these kids. I mean, the kids were like, okay, I want that now. You know, so I think it's opening eyes to what is really possible for them.
And the parents are in the interviews as well. We didn't want to make the interviews excessively long. And so we ended up, I believe, with 7 questions. But y'all know how it is. It's going to lead to some conversations. But 2 of them are for the parents because we got to make sure they're in too. You know, I'm not going to let a parent cancel a kid out, but it's going to help a lot if the parent is at least aware of what is about to be asked of their
Well, the
student.
support is
100%. It's going to matter.
the main.
It's going to matter. But I was really excited that they're already starting to pass that TSI. That's exciting. Our goal is eventually for every 8th grader to take it as an 8th grader. And even if they don't pass, at least they've seen it, because that means they'll probably pass it by the time they're 9th or 10th grade. Okay, so legislative update. And guys, this is happening daily, right? There's more that happens since I typed this up, and I change this all the time. So the Senate goes first, and then the House goes second. And then once it's all done, they'll all get together and try to agree. And they're both doing the same thing. So the Senate went after vouchers first. They passed their bill. The House has already come up with their voucher bill as of late today. And it's not the same as the Senate. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to figure some stuff out. Both of them have said they are passing one. So I think it's coming. We've said that for a long time. But there's a lot of details that got to get mapped out. How much are they going to give the students? The Senate wants to give them, I believe it was $10,500. Unless you have a disability, it was $11,500. Unless you're going to be homeschooled, it's $2,000. I kind of like what the House said. The House says we're just going to make it 85% of whatever the students in public school are getting. Because don't believe what you're reading. The Senate's going to tell you every public school kid's getting $15,000. We have no kids that are getting us $15,000. 0. The average kid's going to get us probably between 7 and 9. All right, so that's a lie. To me, if they go the 85% of what public school's getting, it at least keeps that playing field somewhat even, if it fluctuates.
Well, that forced the Senate to up the state funding too.
A little bit. The House decided today they want to up the basic allotment $200. They have done a study that says to match the inflation since the last time they did it, they'd have to do it $1,000. We all know we're not getting $1,000. But the other part of that is that going to be in addition to teacher raises. Because, and I told y'all this, if y'all remember me telling y'all, they're going to put teacher raises big and bold because that'll be the headline so they can get their vouchers through. And that's exactly what they're doing. And so the questions that are being asked, and I watched it when I had time today as I was working, is it just for teachers? Because if they just do teachers, that leaves out, we all think about the auxiliary people, but that also leaves out every counselor. That leaves out every curriculum person. That leaves out every interventionist. That leaves out every CIC. It leaves out a lot of people. So what the organizations are saying is either raise the basic allotment more and let the districts give it to everybody, or quit using the word classroom teacher and use classroom or school personnel so that everybody benefits from whatever raise they go. The Senate one that they have proposed is for us, a rural school district, $5,000 for every teacher that's 5 years or less. Did y'all read it? I believe that's what it was. $10,000 for every teacher that's 5 years or more. But again, that's one time. And that's what I've been telling you. They're going to pass it one time. It's going to be on the front page. Everybody's going to be happy. And in 2 years, we're going to be right back. Yeah. So don't believe what you read. But at the same time, we got to take what we can get and use it to the best way we can. So ones that are not overly important, but I thought were interesting, UIL is starting to come up a lot because if you've been keeping up with like college football, college basketball, all these transfer rules, there are senators that want to bring that to high school, which would mean kids could go anywhere they want. They want every kid to be able to transfer anywhere they want, one time, penalty free. That's a bad, bad, bad thing. And my hope is it doesn't get passed. But I'm telling you, when you have a room full of people that have never been in education making making the rules for education, it becomes a problem.
Well, they're looking at schools in the Dallas and Austin, Houston area that are 10 miles apart. It'd be easy.
It'd be easy, but it would create
It'd create
some
chaos.
massive
So
problems.
say, yeah.
And then the other thing that we've got to look at after the legislative session is every board right now, and if you'll read that, homeschool participation. So we don't have a ton of homeschool kids, but we have some. And it is going to change from a board opting into a board that has to opt out. And they're doing that to put the boards on the spot. So in other words, right now, a board has to opt in to allowing homeschool kids, because homeschool kids in some places can play the UL sport. Like, they don't have to come to Lamesa at all, but if the board wanted them to, y'all could vote, they can come compete on our basketball team, football team, track team, tennis team, whatever you want. Well, they're going to change that to an opt-out so that all the homeschool parents, and again, this is not for Lamesa, this is for the bigger cities, they want the board to be on record as to who voted against their kids being able to go compete at the local schools. That's not something yet, but it is something we will have to have in policy when that time comes. And then the last two things, I'm not going to rehash what I said about teacher pay raises, but you know, a lot of them are saying we don't need to give teachers pay raises because you've got TIA. But what, and I don't even know if y'all know this, less than 10% of the schools in the state of Texas do TIA. Lubbock Cooper doesn't do TIA. Friendship doesn't do TIA. And they don't do it because they think it's bad for culture. We do it because I think I can't stand here and tell my teachers there's money out there and I'm going to stand in the way of it. To me, that's not the right thing to do.
The other reason I've heard from my daughter's schools, the admin don't want to do it because it's more work.
Yeah, I don't.
It's more paperwork, more accountability on them.
It is, but that sure has its.
They didn't do it with their
You know, and Bob was here. I was about to say that, but that
more work on her.
I'm just going to block y'all's view of her so y'all can see her eyebrow.
We appreciate you doing it.
But I do think it's a lot on the front end, you know. But I just don't see as a superintendent how you. I know at Lubbock Cooper, Keith let his teachers vote, and they voted to not. That's different. If the teachers voted to not, that's different than me just saying, hey, we're not doing it.
And why would they know? Say no.
Do what?
Why would they
because
say
they think
do
that it hurts the culture because some people get it and some don't. And, you know, it started off, Rebecca, where only these certain subject areas could get it, and that's going to make all these other people mad. It's starting to make it where more people can get it. But what I don't think is fair is for them to not give teachers pay raises across the board because of TIA, because very few school districts do it. And it is still very hard to get it because of just all of the ins and outs. And then the last thing, because I think it applies to everything in public education, that UIL came to speak to us, and they, talking about that transfer rule and talking about everything else, they just flat out said the way we did business served us very well for a long time. The times have changed. And basically, we better start changing with them, because if not, we're going to get left behind. And to me, that's public education right now. I'm telling y'all guys, it's a scary, scary world. We went to a job fair yesterday, and I'm going to talk about here in a minute. There's been 40, 50 people at LCU. I bet there were 15 there yesterday. People are not wanting to do this anymore, and I cannot blame them, because you're being vilified every single step of the way. So we better make sure we take care of our people and be good advocates for public education, because they're going to need it when it's gone. All right, government capital, that was in board book. It was also in the email. So I'm not going to rehash the presentation he gave, because I thought when he was here he gave a very solid one. But this is more to us. I know in the presentation he put a list of schools he works with. They all always want to do that. But the one that matters is the one that looks like this. And it's the one that lists our options. And basically what you would be acting on later tonight does not put this in concrete. It just says we want to move forward with this. If you were asking me which one I would say do, I would say because you can always come back and pay everything off earlier, I would go the lowest payment for the longest time, defer 2 years, and if we start getting an influx of money, then we go back and we pay more off when that time comes. But I don't think either one of them are that bad. I do think you defer. We have a choice to defer 12 months, 18 months, or 24. I think we defer 24. It's just because of the unstableness of funding everywhere. But that's kind of what it looks like. What I have, the gist of the overall total is for the 5 SRO vehicles and 4 new buses. With a little cushion in there because you never know what's going to change. And that's kind of what it is. What questions would y'all have?
How's that going to work with like the SRO vehicles? I mean, I'm just assuming they'd probably be ready to go in 4 or 5 months. But that bus is going to be a year out. How's that going to work? I mean, because it's not going to actually fund that purchase until, like the bus, for example. It's not actually going to fund it until we get delivery on the bus.
Well, we pay a little bit up front to reserve it, basically, But if the question is when does our time start? Our time starts from the time we sign this note. Does that make sense? Because they're not necessarily buying a bus. They're giving us money. They're loaning us the money. So our 2 years really starts from this time. So it would be up to us to act as quickly as we could. Does that make sense?
My cheapness was coming out because what I was thinking was it'd be nice on that bus. If it's a year out before we have to actually fund it, then interest rates are dropping slowly, but they're dropping.
Well, one thing that I have not done but I could do is see what it would look like to split them and put the SRO vehicles on one and then see what it would take to do the other one and then just not do the other one. Again, and I do not remember how much we had to get up front on the bus, but we had to pay something up front to make sure, because they're not just going to build us a bus until we pay them.
I mean, that might be...
Is that something y'all like me to look at?
Yeah,
Okay.
that might be a good way of doing that because, like I said, those SRO vehicles are going to get here quicker than what that bus is.
Much.
And I'm not saying that, if you're talking 5.25%, we might save another 0.25% a year from now. The rates aren't going to drop drastically, but they're going to drop.
So I think the way this has been described to me is, again, you're not approving an exact amount tonight. I think we can approve funding for the SRO vehicles and possibly table the bus for another month. Does that make sense? And then I can come back to you with more details. Whatever y'all want to do.
As far as the bus, are we getting another one exactly what we had, or how is that gonna?
I mean, it would be similar. I don't know that it would be exactly
I just didn't
since
know
it's
if
2 or 3 years. There's really no one else selling anything like that at this point.
I mean, I think you want to get them uniform.
Yeah, I would like them to look the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
that's
hodgepodge
wanted to
stuff we
see
keep getting.
be similar.
What all is on their bus and what else?
I would like
5
to have
SRO vehicles and 1 bus.
I would like to have SRO vehicles by this summer so they can get them, because it's going to have to go radio and get all that stuff done. And that,
Which is all
that way
here,
they won't miss
but it would
time.
take. It's all included in the price, but it will take time
Right,
to
you
get all
don't
that.
have to do that, but it won't take much camp.
You are getting a VW bug, right?
Just one of them, just for Eddie.
But the longer we wait, the longer we wait on the bus, the longer we wait, it's going to delay another month. And who knows this time of year what other schools are doing, ordering.
I guess my question would just be, are we going to have to go ahead and fund that bus up front even though we may not get it for a year?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we kind of, and this is the best way I can think of it, is they're not buying us a bus.
They're
giving us the money.
So if you want the
And
money to order bus,
what we do is we're saying with that money, this is what we're doing.
So maybe if they could work the deal separately.
Go ahead and knock out the
Knock
SRO
out the
vehicles.
SROs.
And then you can, at the very least, even if your interest rates don't drop, you do at least delay the payment on that.
And a question to him would be, what's he thinking as far as on the internet? He's going to know more about it than most.
So when we get there tonight, what I would say is let's go ahead and approve something on the SRO vehicles, and then I can come back to you on the
so
bus.
as far as the bus, and that means it'll just be delayed another month, and then it'll take. You know what I mean? The more we delay it, the longer it's going to take. You know what I mean? If we don't.
My guess is,
that's
Ms. Gonzalez, we could probably word the action item that we vote to approve using government capital to purchase SRO vehicles and a bus, and I think that'll lead us the lead way for me to make some calls and do some things and not slow it down.
The best financing.
I'm not, Rebecca, I'm not saying
No.
that we need to.
Does that make sense?
That's what I was trying to understand how that would work.
I think if we approve us as a district to use government capital to fund the two things, I I know we still have the freedom to do
That's
it.
what I
Yeah,
was
the way
wondering.
you, the way you
Mainly
do
the
it
language,
is,
because I thought if you
The
table
way we
it,
do
then
it
you're
isn't-
pretty much
isn't-
saying,
is
wait,
not-
you know.
and if they give you the money, if they say, no, we gotta give you, then I guess you put it into an interest-bearing account.
Well, I won't do anything till I visit with y'all again, but I think that would at least free us up to go ahead and get rolling on the SRO vehicles and give me time to make some calls on the bus to see what the
Okay.
best thing
And
is.
your SRO vehicles, are they coming equipped already? Or
Well, yeah,
Yes,
I just was
sir.
wondering
The only thing
the
he told
language,
me,
'cause
and that's why I
heard
cushioned
somebody
it a
say
little,
something table,
is
and I'm
the
like, well,
graphics on the
we
side.
would
We're
wait.
gonna make sure they all look the same. That's the only thing that we don't have priced yet. Everything else is already in
But so
the...
you'll have to find a different outfit to do that.
No, like, it's all included. He knows who's doing it, it's just not on this batch.
Gotcha.
It is in the government capital
Good.
cost, yes.
Yes, yes.
They're gonna be, and they will look all uniform and be all,
Oh, that'll be
it'll
good.
be great. So, when we get to that, then I think we can just approve government capital, because again, we're not approving a bus and an SRO, we're approving using government capital to finance future vehicles.
What would be the SRO office, vehicle?
Is it pickups or is it SUVs?
No, they are the ones he
That
brought up
Trooper?
here that night, what,
Okay, the
interceptors,
like the Troopers.
or whatever.
Ford Explorers.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ford Explorer. I thought they were like Troopers.
Good.
Questions on that?
Think I'm-
I think we're good. I think we've got a good plan. Go ahead and just approve government capital, and then we can kind of do it as we see going. Eddie, you can smile now. All right, so 2 more things before I get to one that's going to take me a while to get through. The auditorium has started. Y'all approved this a while back. Actually, you approved this while I was still the principal at North Elementary, and I just didn't know anything about it.
Never happened.
But it's going. And have you got any progress updated?
They're about to come in and put the lights in.
Okay. I walked in the other day, and it's just hard to tell what they're doing. But we're going to make sure that Weaver Foundation gets good recognition when this thing's done, and we'll have them out. But another thing that I found out today that I'm very happy about, and y'all at Midwinter, remember we were meeting with the company about starting that literacy program for all of our kids, not just Lamesa kids, all of Dawson County kids. Weaver Foundation has agreed to pay for it all.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Which makes me really happy, and I feel like it's a really good step in the right direction with that relationship. I approached them in November and went and talked to them. They took Ms. Baldwin down there one time and didn't hear and didn't hear and didn't hear, and then talked to him again when we came back from the holidays, and he was like, I forgot about that. But today I got the letter, and I fully expected it to say no, but it didn't. It said, we think it's a great thing for all of our community, and we're going to fund the whole thing.
What's the dollar amount?
$81,000, 700 or something like that. It was substantial.
Yeah.
And I like it because it's for all Dawson County. And the goal of it is to get our kids that are showing up to kindergarten literacy ready. Get those foundational skills so they're better off starting. So I'm really excited about that, and we're going to make sure, because a lot of publicity and a lot of posters and a lot of things across the community come with this, and we're going to make sure it says Lamesa ISD and Weaver Foundation. They get their credit, and I think that's just going to help us.
We need that
Down the road. So, big step in the right direction. I'm going to skip that. Okay, so this is one that I just wanted to discuss. Nothing to be approved today. So we've got 2 pieces of property. The old bus that Ms. Gonzalez and I have talked a little bit about. So I've got to be careful how I word this. There are people in the community that would like to buy it. Okay? But for us to sell a property, what the board has to do is put it out for bids. We can't just sell it to whoever comes and asks to buy it. We've got to do it. I've got all the details. I've already talked to the attorneys on how to do it. We've got a lot of options. We're actually in a really good place because we can sell it as is, where they can go clean up the rest of it. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to take the highest bid. You can take whatever bid you want. But within when I say you want, there's 2 things you've got to look at. You've got to be fiscally responsible for the district. So even if you want to sell it to Ron Mann, but he offered $5, if Ernest Ojeda came and offered $60, well, you're doing better by fiscally responsible for the district if you sell it. But the other side to that is you can also take into account how it's going to affect the community. So even if it's a lower bid, if you think it has a more beneficial reaction to the community, you can still go with the lower bid. But it would be a board choice of what bid they go with. But taking it back to today, I am just asking, is that something the board would like to put on the next board meeting to go ahead and look at possibly taking bids on the old
Most definitely.
bus barn?
Most definitely.
So I'll have that on the next action, on the next board meeting.
That's something that had already been discussed
But there's no
prior, but
minimum,
never
there's no
was.
See, I never knew that.
Can you set a minimum bid on a property like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so it goes back on the tax roll. Would it hit the tax roll what we sell it for, or are they going to pay for what is appraised at now? I mean, 'cause they don't collect taxes right now because
No.
it's school for us.
My guess is what they sell it. But we still, there's a lot to be done. Like my questions were like, what all do we need to do to even get it ready to sell? And what he told me, he goes, if I was y'all, I'd sell it as is.
As
and
is,
just
yeah.
let them do their thing. He said, I'd do it far enough out that y'all can go through there and make sure y'all got everything y'all want, and then just let them have it. You know, I even way more over here in this ballpark. I just want to make sure we got to be fiscally responsible, but want to make sure we sell it to somebody who's going to do good by it for Lamesa. You know, that's what matters a lot to
Especially
me.
if they're giving back to the community.
Because I can think of some people that might want to purchase it that not necessarily have Lamesa in their best interests. And I can think of some other people that do. And
So at the end of the day, it's going to be a board decision?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Y'all will get to look at the bids, and y'all will get to, well, it have to be an open session, but y'all can do that there. Okay, so second property is different. So I was approached by Joe Hines, and I would like to move forward with this. So the park across from South, that's across from the villas. I've got long-term plans for that, but it's not something that we can financially do right now. He approached me about would we lease it to the city, and they would come do all the work, and they would make it, put pickleball courts down and make it usable by the city again. Well, the attorney said you can lease it to them for $1. If they're going to do all of that and do all the work, what I would like our deal to be was during school hours, we get to use it. For South Elementary, if y'all want to bust the older kids over there, because if they do all the work, here's the two things I would say. Let's not lease it for more than 5 years. That way we can look up and see did they really do anything. But if they're willing to come in and do all of the work and pay for everything and turn that back into a usable part of the city that our kids can use for PE and for things, I don't see negatives. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
If that's something that the board decides, or we
That would again
decide,
be 100% y'all's decision.
how soon, or what is the wait?
We've only had informal talks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win.
in though, right?
We haven't even gotten that far. Yeah.
No, but they've got plans. I mean, they've been talking about it already, and I think it's a win-win for them.
That is another place that I think the Weaver Foundation would probably come into play, because their whole rule is it's got to benefit all of Dawson County. Well, there's a foundation in Sweetwater that did just this. There was the school that owned a park, and it had been run down, hadn't been used since, and they've gone through and put 2 or 3 pickleball courts, redone and there's people there all the time. So I have that, possibly a splash pad. I mean, there's just so many things I think they could do for the kids in Lamesa. So that's something I would like y'all to kind of think about, because y'all may be able to think of some negatives that I don't right now.
I mean, no, it's all good. I mean, that's.
My whole thing would be don't lease it so far out there that if we look up in 5 years and it's still not doing anything, then let's just take it back. Because I do have a long-term goal for it. We're not there financially on that. So I'll have both of those on the, that one may not be. We need to get the other one on the action item so we can go ahead and move forward and start investigating. I'll just do some more work talking to Joe. Sounds like you've heard that there may be some plans. I just think it'd be great for our kids to have something else to go to. Okay, I'm going to bypass that because it's, what time? Is it already 8 o'clock?
7:42.
So y'all are going to see that next time because it's important for y'all to see. So,
Well, how long is it?
3 minutes.
Go ahead. It is.
Okay, I got nothing to go on to.
This is a short meeting.
Okay, so I showed this to, first off, we saw it in an instructional team meeting. And there's some things in it. Y'all are going to watch just a simple video. There's some things in it that really resonate with me. So I showed it to all of our leadership team. And I think it's also important for us as a board, as a team of 8 to see. Just watch the thing and then I'll kind of tell you why. Hopefully the sound works. Because it's really good music. So you get the gist of it, and I'm going to tell you why. Like, that literally kept me up for a couple nights because of the guy in the back.
Yeah.
At 153. Did you see the guy that was kind of holding the wagon back? But then when everybody turned around and looked, he gave him a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of people like that. And I was telling them, I think we've all been like that at some points in our lives and not even realized we were being like that. And that's kind of goes back to where we were talking earlier. That's where we are, is trying to get everybody to either be the performers or those effective doers, and everybody get pushing that wagon the right way. And unfortunately, sometimes we got to see those people that are lying to us but pulling the wagon back. Sometimes you got to identify them and just make them feel so uncomfortable that this isn't the place that they got to be anymore. Or so uncomfortable that they get on board and get going with this. And I'm not sure we shouldn't show that to all of our staffs, because as we watched it, we can all say, I can list names with each one of these people that are out there. But I wanted my leadership team to see it, because we've all got to be on the same page, but so do we. Team of 8 plus all of these people, we've all got to be pushing that wagon in the same direction all the time. And I think we are. I think we always are. But man, did that give me nightmares. Do we have people that are giving us that thumbs up, and every time we turn around, they're pulling that wagon back? Telling you, if we do, I don't think we do. But if we do, we got to figure out who they are. And either get them on board or get them out. because that's what in my opinion has held Lamesa back for a very long time.
Maybe you should show them that. Some of them may say, "Oh, that's us." You know, I mean, they know who they are.
We hope, because that was my question to them. Do you think we got people that don't know that that's who they are? And I think that's possible. I took myself back to being a young, naive coach that thought I knew everything. I can guarantee you sometimes my words and actions were not what they should have been. And, we grow up and we mature. And that's what I told them all. We all got to learn from our own mistakes. But hopefully the younger people can learn quicker, because they got all of us here that have learned from us and don't make the same decisions, so that we can get this thing moving the right way quicker. Okay, I saved this for last because it's going to take me a little bit. But I'm going to ask this of you. I've got quite a bit to present here. I would just ask that you save questions for the end, because I genuinely think I'm going to answer about 99.9% of them before I'm ever done. And I always, y'all have seen them. Y'all have seen both calendars. A 5-day calendar, which I was already working on, which I do. I will tell y'all, I take pride in the fact that I think we've created 5-day calendars that meet every requirement from TEA, but at the same time take care of our people. And so as it got closer and we decided to present both calendars, both a 5-day and a 4-day, my goal was just to present you everything I could, and then just have a conversation about which way Lamesa needs to go. And so as I go through this, I'm also going to have Dan talk a little. Dan, when he was it at Bovina? He was tasked with doing all the research for them before they moved. So he had a lot of knowledge coming in. I'm going to have Ms. Ballman and Stacy talk. I'm going to have Christy talk a little, because her kids currently go to one. And I'm just, again, I am taking the side of what I would like more than anything is we approve a calendar. Whether it's a 4-day or a 5-day, because with us moving to Skyward Q, with all of the compliance, that's one thing that we got in a bit of a bind last year. We waited so long, we had a lot of catching up to do. A lot of that depends, we got to have our calendar in the system. So I'm not saying we will, but I'm hoping at the end of the night you just feel good enough that we approve a calendar, so that we can, whatever we do, move forward with it. Both of them do this. Both of them, we've got answers for all of this. And again, I know you've got questions. I'm just going to ask that you listen to me as we go through. They both have enough minutes. And they both try to take into account as many teacher needs as possible. And Mary Elizabeth, you'll get whichever one's approved. If we don't approve one, you won't get it. Please don't take pictures. Somebody take her camera from me. That 5-day calendar looks almost exactly like this year. There's not much different. It's pretty much the same thing. 4-day calendar is obviously pretty different. But it's not as different as you would think. And as I go through it, I'm going to kind of talk about it. I switched it just in time. All right, so what I had Dan do, and I'm going to let them talk, and then I'm going to come at the end and just answer as many questions as I can. What I had Dan do is kind of look at it from a secondary point of view, and then what I had Bauman do is look at it from an elementary point of view, and I'm just going to let each of them kind of talk about what they came up with real quick.
Okay, so right now, and I'll have a complete breakdown of the minutes and stuff at the end, but I created 2 proposals as far as times and stuff, and the reason why 57 minutes is the magical number, and this was part of my research when I was kind of going through the process in Bovina, is in order to do a 4-day calendar, in order to meet CTE requirements, you have to maintain at least 57 minutes if you're going to go into a 4-day calendar, in order so we can get those certifications that are required, whether through welding, cosmetology, what have you. And so whenever you see my minutes breakdown, it might be a little different than Richie's, because he's doing from the total day. I'm doing minutes from the time the kids are in the classroom. Okay?
Like so, no lunches, no
breakfast, no breakfast period, no passing periods. It's just strictly while the kids are in the classroom. And so if you can see right here, I have a start in first period at 7:50, and it's a 57-minute segment with 4-minute passing periods, and it has our end time at 4:16, which we typically get out around 4 now. And adding those additional minutes, like I said, and it kind of attests to what they were talking about as far as the presentation, as far as when you send homework home, 75% of it doesn't get done, or the kids find a way to cheat on it. So it gives the teachers, and this was feedback that I got back from my teachers whenever we were going through the whole process, that it allowed them to present the lesson to the class and give them independent practice. and they were able to observe the class while they were doing independent practice, so they had access to the teacher if they had help. But it also allowed the teacher to almost say that they could prevent them from cheating. Because, you have it where kids are making 90s and 98s on homework, and when they take the test, they make a 30. It's because they're doing photo math or they're doing something like that. So that eliminated some of that process. So if you can see on this calendar, there are 57 minutes, and then I put a 45-minute, it's like a study hall. It's for HB 45. Basically, we give them, it's more minutes than we give them now. And if you're able to be more strategic as far as what we can do, as far as our kids that are failing EOCs, with seniors and juniors, as far as ACT preparation, and stuff like that. That's kind of how we segmented on our campus. We put in a mandatory study hall when we did ours for all freshmen. And within 2 years of doing that, we were an A-rated campus with 5 distinctions. Because that was just, we were able to target our areas of concern. So that's proposal number 1. And as you can see on proposal number 2, there's not much change. The only thing that I really changed is I increased from 57 to 58 minutes, and I took away 5 minutes from that study hall period and brought it down to 40. And then we went to 418 in time. So here's the breakdown in comparing the calendars side by side, a 4-day and a 5-day based on the minutes that I have. So if you look in a 5-day calendar, we had a total of 160 instructional days with teachers with students. So what I did is I took our instructional minutes, the times that the kids were in the classroom, and that totaled to 418 minutes per day, and I multiplied that by the 164 minutes, and that got me to that 68,000 and some change. But if you compare it to the 4-day calendar, since we're increasing minutes in the classroom, we're going to actually have, and that's the one thing that I wanted to do when I was tasked with this, is to make sure that we either had the same amount of instructional minutes that we did in a 5-day calendar or more. So if you can see that in these 2 proposals, I'm actually presenting more instructional minutes to our students in a 4-day calendar than in a 5-day calendar. So that's kind of where I left with that. So if you can see the numbers, you go 444 minutes on my first proposal with a total of 68,509, which is close to what we already have. And then the other proposal, of course, we go to 446 minutes, and then it brings us to that 68,907.
And again, what I would say, because I know you're going to have a lot of questions, let us go through it, and then we can go back and show you some stuff, because I just want to get through it all, because I think we'll answer some questions. Are you good?
That's
all right,
what I got for now.
It's so cold.
It's pretty cold.
Freezing.
I don't even anymore. My feet are freezing. And I'm even wearing the old man wool socks.
It's cold up here. Okay, I don't even know how to work the clicker.
Just press forward.
So what I did is I started looking at how many minutes we currently have, and I broke it down by subject. Elementary runs a little bit different. They're not going to be equal breakouts all the way across. So currently at South, every day they have 135 minutes of reading, 95 of math, 30 of science and social studies, and they run between 45 and 60 minutes of RTI. This is also based off of, everything I did with South is based off of 2nd grade. They stay a lot more consistent with their time. Kindergarten has less RTI time, so they might have extra recess and stuff like that to break up the days. They've got a little more wiggle room with what we can do. In a 4-day week, reading increases to 150 minutes a day. Good gravy. 110 minutes of math, 40 minutes of science and social studies, and then a minimum of 75 minutes of RTI. One of the things that she talked about when she was here earlier, Kathy was talking about that multi-tiered and how we want to be able to spend more time really honing in on what we need for our kids. This allows us to attack that Tier 1, give time for Tier 1 remediation, but also pull in some more RTI. One of the reasons we have a lot more flexibility with this has to do with PLCs. So right now, to do PLCs, your entire grade level has to have somewhere to go at the same time, because everybody has to have the same one. So you're finding a place to send 120 kids so the teachers can go somewhere. By having it like this, one of the things we talked about is how PLCs would be different, so you can stagger your day a little bit more. We don't have as many interventionists as we used to. This is going to give us more time so that we can pull kids what they need to and just kind of make some of the adjustments that are better than for kids in general. One of the RTI things we had talked about, when I first moved here, we had a program called Hosts. And as a teacher, we would go and we would tutor one other kid back then we did it during our PE time because we didn't get a conference, but can't do that now. During that computer time, you would have somebody that you worked with. So we might not have as many reading interventionists as we used to, but that's something that we can pick up and help with. So that's South's breakdown. North is different because being departmentalized, a lot of their breakdown depends on how many teachers they have at a grade level. Right now, most of our grade levels currently have triads. They run about 90-minute blocks. They have their 60 minutes of win time. And this is taking out specials, lunch, recess, all of that. That's where those minutes, we're not counting those. Looking, if we stayed with triads going to next year with a 4-day, our reading, actually all of our blocks would increase to 110 to 115 depending on which grade level, and probably like a 60 to 90 minute RTI because we would be able to have some flexibility to pull from some different ones. But a lot of that's going to come down to, do we still have 6 teachers per grade level? Do we still have the math, science, and reading split? So this overall is just kind of a general if we were to run it in the same fashion that we do now. But looking just kind of at an overview, at a 5-day week, total instructional minutes where they're in front of their teacher getting the instruction is about 370 a day, so 60,000 a year because you're pulling in your 60 to 70 minute conferences. That's what we've typically been running at South because we take one every week for PLCs, or South and North. At a 4-day week, we would be increasing to 410 minutes face-to-face with teacher at South and 420 at North. And so you can see our minutes go up to 63,000 and then 64,000 and some change.
So the approach I took was, okay, I could sell y'all rainbows all day long and tell you it's the greatest thing in the world, but I wanted to look at it like all the problems. So when I was calling people, I was asking them not, hey, what worked, what didn't, what did you have to fix to make it work? And so the next 3 or 4 slides has a mixture of things that I think that it does well, things that I think we're going to have problems with, that I've tried to think of solutions. I witnessed twice in the last 24 hours that top one because at the job fair, the first thing everybody that has 4-day weeks was doing was handing out calendars to possible people. And I was curious because I didn't know how Lamesa ISD would feel. And when we decided to put out a survey today, because I think it's very important to know what our teachers feel, and I was a little bit taken aback by just how the thought of it suddenly changed all of our campuses for the day. And am I wrong? I mean, you're a teacher. I mean, what was it like once that came out? It surprised me.
Yeah, it was all we talked about at lunch, and like I had 5th grade or lunch with all the 5th grade teachers. It's all we talked about. We talked about how much longer would our days be. Just not that much longer. How we've had so many kids out recently, and how that would cut down because we have kids literally like I missed school because I had a haircut. Well, now you can get your haircuts on Friday, and you don't have to miss school for it. And just, I mean, it was like we coasted through the afternoon today. It's just like we were all in a great mood just at the thought of it.
So the people I've talked to have said they've not seen a change up or down, which I wish I could sit here and tell you that it's going to increase scores, but I'm not sitting here telling you it's going to decrease scores. I'm a firm believer in that whether we're a 5-day, 4-day, 6-day, or 7-day, what we talked about earlier is what's going to change scores, the intentionality of the teaching. That middle one's the one that surprises me, but then it doesn't really make sense. Discipline at all of the campuses has gone down. One at either Crane or one of them went down 47%. And attendance rate of students and teachers has gone up. Now, again, I've been looking at this for a little bit, and I've been asked a lot, why Fridays? Because I talked to some districts that go Mondays. I've talked to some that go Mondays in the fall so they can be there for pep rallies and stuff, and then Fridays in the spring. I don't want to make any decisions based off of pep rally. I want to make decisions being fiscally responsible. And Friday is hands down the biggest sub day of the year because of the amount of absences we have students and teachers. Monday, kids are there. Parents are there. Teachers are there. If we were to take Mondays off, we're still going to have problems on Friday, in my opinion. But then I also thought it from a coach view. We can't just think about football. Football may miss 3 periods of the year. They don't leave early. But basketball does, and volleyball does, and track does, and softball does, and cross country does. And all of that happens on Friday. And in my opinion, I'm sitting there thinking, well, if a kid's going to be gone Friday, they don't need to be gone Monday too. And it just makes more sense to me if we were going to do it on Fridays. Then I took an even further step back and thought, if I was a football coach, how would I feel about it? And I was like, well, I would bring them up and I'd do a walkthrough or I'd do a shoot around. I mean, I was trying to think of everything that I could do if this happened. And then the bottom one is, and these are all, again, you're about to get into the problems that I found. We are one of the few schools, and I tell y'all this all the time, that's actually fully stocked with DIAGs, dyslexia, and speech. Other schools can't find them. And other schools are allowing them to work differently than even the teachers.
Agreed. So, a lot of the schools, their speech people are completely contracted because they can make so much more money now as a contract, and then they're able to work from home. They're having hybrids where they get 2 to 3 days at home, and then the rest of the days at school actually serving students or testing. While we were actually asked to do this and looking at it, we got an email from TKs asking if we could start sending in our hybrid schedules because San Antonio ISD and a bunch of other ISDs had just approved for their evaluation staff and their contract, like their speech services and things like that, to go on a hybrid calendar so that they're not in the classroom every day. They're able to do it at home to write their reports because it's such a high need area. And I was like, well, we're actually in the middle of that right now. So we were emailing back and forth on that. And they started sending different policies, and different schools are sending in different things because you can't find the people. And it's just where we are right now as a state.
Okay, so problems. First one that I thought of, where are kids going to go on Friday? That's the very first thing I thought of. And so it was interesting what I found. So I've got y'all have met him. Y'all ate dinner with him 2 years ago at Midwinter, and my friend that's a superintendent at Clyde now. He was at Breckenridge when y'all met him. He's at his third school. He does good. He doesn't get fired. But he's on his third district to start a 4-day week, and so he said here was the evolution of it. He said when I did it at Merkel, we went above and beyond to make sure we had childcare, and it was used for about a month before people stopped coming. He said when I went to Breckenridge, we went above and beyond to make sure we had a place. He said for about the first week, 2 weeks, 10, 15 kids came. He said by the end of the month, 2 or 3 kids came. He said at Clyde, we're not even worrying about it. Well, I want to go the other way and worry about it. And we still have an ACE program. In the summer, our ACE program hosts kids on Friday. Because we only go to summer school Monday through Thursday. We host kids on Friday with ACE. And then the other thing I thought was, you know what? If we could do half a day with them at ACE, maybe that would help the Boys and Girls Club membership. Because it's extraordinarily down right now. And I'm on that board too. So ACE would be the plan I would tell you today. And then the other thing, I know that y'all have asked me a lot of times about the daycare. I got a little cold with all the other things because I had 2 people interested. I think this might make that more feasible too, to suddenly, now would we run the daycare on Fridays? Maybe, maybe not. But we would always run it every time we have school. So on those Fridays, which I'm going to get into here in a minute, where staff came and kids didn't, they would still have that daycare there and they wouldn't have to be searching for it. Feeding kids is extraordinarily important to me. There's a couple ways we could go about it, but the way that when I moved back from Fort Worth, my first thing was over COVID. I handed out bags of food all the time. And so at the very least, what one of the schools does is they do the exact same thing. When kids leave on Thursday, they give them a bag of breakfast and lunch for Friday. You know, that, or there's a lot of ways around that. But would kids get fed? Absolutely they would. Those top 2 were probably my big ones. We've already talked about the instructional minutes. We've talked about discipline and attendance rate. I didn't even think about doctor's appointments until earlier today. And you said haircut. But a lot of the districts, because I've got Crane and I've got Terrell in front of me, and they said that's when they started encouraging not just parents but teachers to schedule all their doctor's appointments and everything on that day off. I've got a survey for you in a minute. I would look at it as saving on utilities and transportation, saving on subs, saving it on some of those things when you have that one day. And I put Fridays for a reason over and over and over. What's important to me is that this ain't going to be easy if we did it. And what I've talked to, every district I've talked to has said there were some hurdles, but we figured it out. But what has stood out with every district I talked to, none of them have ever gone back to a 5-day week. And I think that's a telling sign. Campus expectations and district expectations, what Lockney does, I love. They leave it, if their teachers, if one of their teachers is not taking care of their business, they bring them up on that Friday to get their business taken care of. And so I said, well, who holds that principal accountable? He said, we do. So if that principal is not holding his teacher accountable, we hold that principal accountable. This was the best thing I read that talked about administrators, because I know that would be a question. And this is, salaried employees would be expected to complete the work that needs to be completed in order to conduct the business of the district. Athens ISD said sometimes they're in the office, sometimes they're in the office for a few hours, sometimes they're working from home, but once the business is not getting done, the expectation for those people would change. And I put that, it would be like building a plane while flying it. We would have problems. We would just have to figure out how to get past those problems and keep moving on. Then we would have to remember the reason we're doing it. So the survey that we did today, that's what it was. We had 251 responses. It's the fastest. I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there watching it go up, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I can ask y'all a lot of questions, and I don't get no responses like this. 74.9 strongly, and you'll see the rest of it here in a minute. Somewhat. Yellow is neutral. The green and blue. But again, and I thought about this as I looked at it. I sent this to people that we've also told are not coming back. I've sent this to retired people. So who knows who put what on there? But you can only fill it out once. This is not like Homecoming Queens.
We can laugh at it now.
This is a big one to me. Like I narrowed it down to 5 questions that I think matter. And I got teacher in the room. And I think the world of Trey Downer. And I do think he's an excellent teacher. So this may be something you want to speak on. You talked about it at lunch.
Yeah.
I mean...
I mean, it's obviously something you think about. With more time each day, my struggle with time in the class is not having enough time per day to get through the lesson that day. It's not like I can condense a block and teach what I need to into 4 days, but when I'm running out of time, it's trying to get through a lesson and centers and the other stuff all within 90 minutes with curriculum that's set up for 2 hours of teaching. And so I think with a longer block, we'll not just be able to do more, but get deeper with the stuff that we're doing.
Ladini, you got anything to add to that?
I will, because we're a lot shorter at secondary. So, I mean, we have, 43 minutes, I think, or 48 minutes, I think it's so we're a lot shorter than that. So when we have classes that struggle, I think of my class that I have this year that is on that struggle, that is mostly Tier 2, Tier 3 students. And having that time is not enough to get them to that Tier 1 instruction to build. So, yeah, I'm the same way. We need more instructional minutes.
And I will say, where'd that go? A lot of our curriculum resources now, because so many districts are going to this, have a 4-day-a-week option in their pacing guides. So right now we follow the 5-day-a-week, but they do have a 4-day-a-week, especially the math one that Kathy was talking about earlier with our alignment. That's just directly from the state, and they have a 4-day and 5-day option. So a lot of that is helpful too.
This one I put on there, and I'm not going to lie, I thought, even if you weren't for a 4-day week, I thought this would be 100%, because 74.1 plus 16.7 somewhat improved, but this was kind of the soft toss question, how do you think a 4-day work week would impact your work-life balance? That one stood out to me a lot. Do you think a 4-day work week would improve staff morale? And again, I literally saw it today by the lightness that hit the district. And that's who all I asked. And so this is the last thing I want to talk about, because this is everybody, right? And, you know, like Dan had some experience with how they did auxiliary staff in other districts. I would just say, and again, we may end this and be like, done. Let's go the other way, which, you know me, whatever we approve, let's rock and roll. But I would say if you do go the 4-day week, I'm just going to ask that you trust me to make changes as we need to make changes. And and that doesn't mean it's rough after 1 week, scratch it. That means let's evaluate it for a while. Then I may end up bringing some people in, or, like one thing he talked about was one district, because you got those hourly employees, and you don't want anybody to suffer with compensation. So you've got hourly employees. So one district said instead of 4 8-hour days, they work 5 10-hour days. That's one way to do it. I would just say, let's trust our people, because last week we needed to germ blast our buildings, right? So maybe that Friday they went ahead and came in to germ blast our buildings. But to make sure that it's equal, and this was Dan's idea, and I thought it was a really good idea. If they want to do that, because right now our custodians and people, they don't get a full spring break off. They don't get a full Thanksgiving break off. They work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I usually cheat and get in trouble for it, and I call up and I say, send them home at noon or 1, right on Wednesday. But let's say they want to germ blast on a random Friday, well then they can get that day back over a spring break. You see what I mean? And still get the same benefit, but maybe they can put it in a different place. So I'm going to go back to what it looks like for me, because again, I looked at schools that don't ever come. I looked at schools that sometimes come. And so the way that I tried to make it is you're starting school a week earlier. So there's where I bought back a lot of my days. You go a 5-day week, and then you use Labor Day weekend to kind of start it. And yes, I do have us off that Monday. One of the questions I got asked today was, when you have Monday off, do you get Friday off? And my answer is no, you don't. And my actual answer is, for the most part, you won't take many more Mondays off. So you kind of plan for your first month of school right here in this normal PD spot. And then when you hit October, the first Friday of every month is where all staff comes. And that's your PLC day. Instead of for 45 minutes or 70 minutes, you've got your whole day to PLC, to do PD, to do your work days, to lesson plan together. And so you're kind of getting ready for October, kind of getting ready for November, kind of getting ready for December. Doesn't really mess with spring break, doesn't really mess with Christmas break. Kind of the same concept when you come back. You go a 4-day week. I cheated to give MLK Day kind of that same. I try to parallel things. That's how my brain works. And so you've got to tag with MLK Day your first 4-day week, but then you would go that Friday. But this is all adjustable. And then right there, first Friday of all those months. Now, April 7th to May 1st is STAR testing, and I think you come the whole time. That way, make-up days, because the way STAR testing is spaced out is the state of Texas gives you a window, and different tests have to be done by certain times. And that way, I just thought that's another way to buy back some minutes and days, is just make sure you're coming all the time during STAR testing, and then you actually graduate on the same day. So that's really the gist of it, and then you can look at the 5-day calendar. It is almost identical to this one. Like the fall break you had, which a lot of schools do this now, is gone on the 4-day, obviously. I am kind of like that ULL quote. I'm still kind of, and I think Ron and I think the same in this. It's still, I grew up with teachers, and I still get used to that 180 days of whatever. I bet I'm one of the only superintendents in the state of Texas that we went 13 days over our minutes this year, guys. And they all know it. I try to lie to them and tell them we only have 3 extra days, and like, Richie, we can count. And so to me, I try to make it more like other districts, so that, so early release there, but it's all it's like you could put the current calendar up and it's almost exactly like this 5-day, so when we got asked, I tried to do as much research as I can, and again, my goal was to troubleshoot the problems, but I don't think I can troubleshoot all the problems of something I've never done. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can. I can tell you that I'm really good when problems show up, and I think I have proved that. When we have problems, I'm usually pretty good at figuring out the best way to move forward. Man, I've tried to answer a lot of questions before I let them ask. Christy, do you want to say anything? Because you got kids that are doing it right now.
Yeah, I can, absolutely. Both of my daughters, I've got one in middle school and one in elementary. Middle school, they've continued to have practices on Fridays. My youngest does come with me often on Fridays, so that is one of those that she just goes to school an extra day and she enjoys it, luckily. But they do absolutely appreciate that additional day. It does help them. However, there is some of that not knowing, as a parent, not knowing what that's going to look like when scores come out. This is the first year their district has done that. So it's kind of one of those cautiously optimistic, but they do absolutely enjoy it.
What I handed you, and I'm not done letting them talk, were the comments. Like, not everybody commented, and some of it was in a, one of them said, I'm retiring. So I just took the comments that, there were some of them. I tried to make, I left one that I thought was funny on that front page. It literally just says, please, exclamation point. But a lot of it talks about what Christy said, and that's kind of where I am. Do I think it would be great for staff and student? I absolutely do. Do I think if it was a big issue, schools that have gone to 4 days would have gone back to 5 days? Yes. The trend is still the other way. There's more. Who was it? Bushland today. Bushland did it today.
And they're same size schools.
But I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's all roses and there won't be some issues, because I don't know that there's not going to be.
Said Wellman Union went 4 days.
Yes.
Yeah, which is going to change that area. I'm kind of curious as to what some of those other schools around Wellman will do now, because.
It's on their third year.
So before we open it up, Frankie, I didn't even know you made it. Good to see you, sir.
I can add to the. Go ahead.
No, I don't. When Kathy was up here talking about our strategic leadership, the one thing that she had probably line that when we went and met with them, and I hadn't thought about it until we kind of started looking at this, is she was saying the one thing that our teachers struggle with is that having that PD on knowing how to go in and teach our kids. And if we had that day, that fourth day, the day that we're coming, it'll be all day on that Friday, that we can do that professional development, that we can take care of that. We can bring the service center in. We can have those PLCs where they're only getting 3 hours a month right now. We'll have 8 hours a day, to work with them. So I think that if that's one of our biggest goals, we're looking at that, like how do we get the time to do it? Now you've got the time to do it, where we couldn't have the time before. So that was just something that when we were talking about our goals, how are we going to meet those goals? Right there, we got time now to meet those goals. So I think that was an important thing when we were talking about that, because we've got to figure out when we're making those goals. We got, like she said, our next step of that is figuring out a framework and how we're going to do it. And I feel like right there we're checking that off right now.
What were you going to say, Nick?
I was just going to kind of say the same thing. 'Cause right now, currently, we offer between South and high school anywhere from 3 to about 4 to 4.5 hours of PLC time through the month. And by taking those PLCs out from the instructional day, that's where we're able to accumulate more minutes, number one. And then number two, we're able to take that 3.5 to 4 hours of PLC time and doing it not one day and turning it into 8 hours. So we're actually giving teachers more time to plan together, and to kind of get aligned a lot more and be more strategic with how we approach our kids throughout the month. And then of course we get to meet again at the beginning of the month and reassess and go again.
And some of these comments say, I have the privilege in growing up in the house of a teacher and a coach, and you have a teacher that you live with, teacher, everything. She's done it all. And you know, a lot of these comments are going to talk about how they're having, you know, they do things Saturdays and Sundays. We get it, that's part of the gig, but, you know, if you can give them a little bit of that time back, I do think that that's an important thing. So, I'm not going to be the only one that answers questions. If I think someone else can answer it better, I'm going to yield to them, but just fire away if there's stuff we haven't touched on.
What about the spring break? Doing it from
We
Friday?
could, like what you
Friday
said
to-
in the meeting the other day, like what, let me go back to that.
Because we have that Friday before, and then that week after, which is whole spring.
So instead of going here, go here?
Yeah, instead of doing the next Friday, do it on a Monday, so it's actually from Friday to Monday. So it'd be a little longer.
Yes, ma'am.
I like the idea of a 4-day calendar. I feel like our staff needs it. I think that, you know, with what we were just hearing, that we're going to have to increase the workload. If you're going to teach the kids, like where they're saying that questions have to be harder, the rigor, that's going to take a lot of preparation. And I think it's going to be on both ends, like our admins, our teachers, they're going to have to come together and regroup, and then they're going to need a break. And then at certain points, we're going to have to figure out when they're going to be able to have time to individually, how am I going to reach these kids? Even the students. Now that means the stress on them is going to be up, because just because we are teaching them, you know, the harder questions, or however she worded it, doesn't mean that they're there and they're ready for it. So that extra day of going to get a haircut or going to do something, and I feel like it's coming anyway. So it's not like we're the first one. So we need teachers to want to come here. We need admins to want to, like, motivation. I'm for it. I think it's...
You touched on the one thing that scares me, and I said it that night I interviewed. Right there. I said where Dan said, and we kind of talked about a 4-day week. Now, I don't even know if y'all remember that, and we all agreed at the time, you know, it was still 21 schools in the state were doing it. But we made the comment that we're good with not doing it unless Lubbock ISD or Midland ISD does it first. And I think, and I asked her earlier today, has the fact that Greenwood ISD's done it and Midland ISD, what has that changed? And she said, oh, Greenwood's been taking their teachers right and left. You know, so I do, April, think that's a fear I have.
But just
it's
like
a
that
matter
video
of time.
that you showed, you know, that person in the back, whether we go to a 4 or 5 day, it's not going to make them get on board or, you know, do the stuff they're really not, but it might. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that people who work hard, they're always going to work hard. And I just feel like all the way around, it's...
I just don't think there's anything that y'all have presented and things that I've visited with Keith Bryant about it the other day on the plane. And everything that I'm hearing...
He already retired and flying around.
He was actually going to a wrestling meet.
Do what?
He was actually going to a wrestling meet.
Okay, I feel better. I was like, he didn't waste any time.
But, I mean, everybody that I've talked to, and I've shared this with those that I've talked to, you know, me and Lisa had a long conversation with a board member and a teacher down at Anna ISD. And I just don't see anything in all this that we've looked at in the presentation that y'all given that it doesn't warrant a chance. It doesn't warrant us giving it a chance.
And that's what I would say that it is. Because I was, and they know it, like, I've been worried about because I don't want to present it like it's problem free. I don't think anything's problem free. I think we're going to face issues and hurdles that we don't even think about right now. Do I think we can navigate them? But that's when I kept going back to in every school, and I asked them the other day, but have any of these people gone back to a 5-day? And that does tell me that there's merit in it.
And they've all talked about, you know, the ones that I've talked to, they've all talked about that after a couple of years they reevaluate.
Yeah, y'all know, I think everything's on a year basis. Everything. You know.
I mean, there's probably 5 days.
I don't think you can ever go back to a 5-day unless the state mandates it. Go.
And you know, Ron, 2 years ago, I thought that it would go that way. And then I think that because even today on the TEA commissioner thing, he's about to have to change the complete certification procedures because he said, y'all can't find certified teachers anymore because there's not any out there. And, you know, that was one thing, and I don't remember if it was Crane or Terrell or Athens, because I talked to a lot. They did say, but I don't want to make that promise. They did say that it increased, I don't remember where it was, that it increased their ability to get certified teachers because people wanted to come there. I don't want to say that. We do this, we're going to have all certified teachers. I do think it makes you more attractive.
But it's going to help.
It's not going to hurt.
It's just like y'all said earlier, you know, you went to that job fair yesterday and you had 30 schools going after 15 kids.
And they were all really quality people. That's the thing, you know. And that's, like, I think we have a lot to offer in Lamesa, but you got to get them in the door first. And I think that that's what those people were handing on those calendars for, is to get them in the door.
So let me ask you, on Fridays, who would still be required to be it?
Well, that's why I'm saying I would need y'all's trust to just trust me to figure it out. Because for me, on some of these Fridays, if people are getting their work done, I would think that you shut the buildings down. And as long as people are getting their work done, you're not worried about it. Now, that goes back to...
I mean, I'm talking like counselors, coaches, principals.
Well, I don't touch coaches.
Central.
I don't touch coaches.
I'm talking about, you know, the auxiliary. I mean, is Central shutting down?
I would think that if they're getting their work
shutting
done,
down?
you do. But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to make promises and say that we're never going to work. But I don't want to make promises and say we're always going to work. I want to be able to do what the district needs to be done. I would never touch a coach. Like, I can tell you, I was an AD for 13 years. I work 7 days a week.
Right.
You know what I mean? I work 7 days a week now. And that's the thing. Like, I'm going to either be here or I'm going to be working. But I guess that's my point. If we have this flexibility and the boys are out of school on a Friday and we've got a 4-day, I want that flexibility to be selfish too, to get my work done wherever they're at as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of?
So have we put the cost also to it? So I think there's 24 Fridays will be out. So how many employees? 100 that would affect. I mean, I guess all the employees if you're going to.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If you're going to look at making it a blanket, because I know some schools require like admin and up to come in on Friday.
Not as much as they did at the beginning.
Okay.
I had a hard time finding anybody that does that.
And all the new ones and the presentations I went to, their soup and stuff, so they're completely
At the beginning, there were a lot more like that. And then, you know, because it was weird, I would talk to Post, who said they didn't require anybody to come, but Dimmitt said at the beginning they did. But it has gone way more, and that's why I read that paragraph, because I thought they worded it really well. If the work is getting done, you give, let me read that again.
So like, say Central, y'all would come in at 7 to 8 or 8 to 6. I mean, would they work 10? I mean, or would they just lose hours?
I think that Central gets their work done anyway. Does that make sense? Like, that's something that you would have to be good with as a board, is understanding there's going to be some money.
This is still tax dollars, and we're going to be questioned. I mean, like, if you figure up 24 days at $200 a day average for a teacher, and we have 120, that's $400,000.
No, I agree, and that's one of the things that...
Are we saving that much in transportation, utilities, everything like that? I mean, is there that much saved on those days?
I can't answer that
So,
without... Does that make sense? I don't want to say yes, just because I'm trying to sell something.
If we're paying somebody hourly, and we're asked, they're working their same hours from Monday through Thursday, well, that's only going to be 32, 34 hours. We're paying them the same.
Right.
For a 40-hour week. I mean, that's tax
You
dollars.
know, you can increase that...
We could be attacked for that.
You can increase that Monday through Thursday time. I don't know that you would ever get it back to even. And that's what I've talked to a lot of superintendents about. And so Lockney is a good example. Jim Baum, he's retiring, and I talked to him a long time, and he was a lot like me. He was more hesitant, and his board was on the other end of it because they told him we don't want anybody coming in this place on Friday. We want everybody to have the day off. And to me, it's just that's why I ask for trust, because I do think I'm pretty good at making sure that if people aren't doing their job to get done, but I just don't want to stand here and tell you everybody's going to be here, everybody's not going to be here. I want to be able to make it as it needs to be. But I do think that is a very valid discussion point.
So the longer days, and I know it's 25 minutes or are we taking into account like a 5-6-year-old
100%.
withstanding it longer than a 16-17-year-old?
That was my biggest question for her. And I said, because if I'm a parent, that's going to be a question I have. All right, so you're going to ask my little kid to stay in school a little longer. How are you going to do that? And, you know, one thing she said, well, one thing we could do, and I thought it was a really good idea, is right now we have specials back to back. Like you go to PE and you go to choir or music. It's music. 25-25 back to back. And she said one thing we could look at doing is making sure that we space them out. They go one of them here in the morning and then at the tail end of the day. Because right now they're tied to teacher conferences, so you have to make them a little longer because of the PLC thing. But if we move all of our PLCs and stuff to those Fridays, that frees that up a little bit. So we would try to space those out to make sure. And I think you throw in an extra 10-minute recess in there just to get their legs back underneath.
So what Fridays would they be? The first Friday of every month? Is that what you're saying?
More or less, yes. No, look at it because
I mean, it's just so
vague
and open. I mean,
but it's
we give and give and it's. I mean,
so the way that I thought of it was
3 day.
The way I thought it was more of, okay, we spend this PD planning, and then first of the month we plan, first of the month we plan, first of the month we plan. PD we plan, first of the month we plan, first of the month we plan. I didn't feel like you needed it here because you end up coming and going almost the whole month. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then at that point I didn't feel like we needed, you know, you go through the first and you're pretty much there. So that was the train of thought when I was going through it.
I still think, though, it's, you know, they're going to get their work done. It's kind of like at our office. We take off at lunch on Fridays. And, you know, there's some days that I wish they were still there that afternoon. You know, but it's just part of doing business. And just like you're talking about the cost of or trying to add up the cost of, you know, of being off on that Friday, I kind of look at it from a standpoint, that's a cost of doing business, because the benefit, I mean, they're still going to get the time in, the instruction's still going to be there, they're going to be in the classroom, the required minutes. I mean, I just don't see, from a standpoint of employee morale and taking care of the employees, I don't feel like that, Ron, I don't feel like that they're going to, you know, we're going to go from taking a day off, you know, this year to next year it's going to be 2 days off and then 3 days
Well,
off.
I would hope that the people in this room, including, I mean, I was your principal, was never your, I would hope they all know if it's a total cluster and a disaster, it ain't going to last. Does that make sense? Like, I would hope that we all understand that there's a responsibility that comes with it. That, man, it's a giant gift. Better be responsible and do it the right way, because, like we said, you're going to reevaluate it and then go a different direction if it's not successful.
I understand the hesitation. I just
Absolutely.
But,
I have hesitation.
But not only that, we're not the first district to do this, and so.
What do scores look like in other districts that are going to it, though?
That's what
they're holding.
I mean, before they went, are they holding it at scores up? Or are they holding it scores where we are?
No, and that's a good point. And that's one of the districts that I talk to has people like us. But again, I feel like I'm trying to be careful with my words because I don't want to feel like a salesman, you know. And I don't remember what the comment was, but there was, because we've got some employees that have already taught at a 4-day week besides Christy. And there was one of them that talked about her school and how the kids were just like Lamesa and that it did improve scores. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's going to happen. I think if we look up at the end of the year and we don't make progress, to me that's one of the first reevaluative tools.
It would have to take 2 years because in the first year you really couldn't see much. You know what I mean? And it's not
We're just trying to
permanent. We
figure
could
it out
at
in the
least
first
do it for 2 years, and then we can all then decide, okay, if the scores aren't there the way we thought they would be, everybody else's scores might have gone up. Maybe our district
'Cause
isn't doing that. We can go back to 5 days.
I can see this other world where all of a sudden the instruction does improve because they know. I can see that world.
And the
You know?
attendance will go up. That means that you'll have more kids in their seats. Because right now, I mean, you go a 5-day, but if you have X amount of teachers out, that subs in the class, if you have kids out, you know, they're still missing that class instruction.
And I think with what our finances where we're at right now, we might not be able to give raises in another year or two. And this, in a way, sort of is an incentive to say that this is the best we
So
can
you
do
pay less
for now,
hours.
you know? And I mean, I don't know. That's just how I think about it. Too.
And I
That-
feel
That's
like
very
this
good.
isn't something in a year where you'll say, well, in a year from now, we can see if when you go every day and you know the expectations that admins have for their teachers, they'll be able to see. They're not going to wait a year to say, oh, well, we didn't grow. You'll know as you're going, okay, this is working, this isn't working. We need to regroup. This is what we need to do.
And I think because we're doing this strategic plan, it's going to take time, like she said and you said. There's not enough time in the day as it is, and if we're going to be pushing these kids to, they're going to need that time.
Well, and it helps too having the extra time, because what happens with that level of questioning, you know, as a teacher, you gradually go into it. So you do these gradual release teaching, and that's the best method, right? And so you're modeling and doing right now when teachers are modeling, everything's like so tight, right?
Yeah.
So you're modeling for 2 or 3 minutes. Some kids need 6 to 7 or 8, and then you're letting them do a practice where they're doing it on their own. A lot of times we're not having enough time to get to the independent practice, and we're not getting enough time to get the level 2 and 3 questioning in the lesson. And so that's where the gaps are coming in, because the STAR test is all level 2 and 3 questions. There's very few level 1 questions. So we need to quit scratching the surface and get in.
Yeah.
You know.
Is there a deadline to pass this calendar, or,
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, it's kind of like last year. We ended up tabling it for a couple months. It just it does put us. I would like it for job fairs and for compliance, whether it's 5-day or 4-day. And that's my thing. Is I think they're both good calendars, and that's why at the beginning I said that would be what I would vote for.
That's what I would say
something.
for job fairs. And I mean, I think it's coming no matter what.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen? What if these little schools around us start adapting and we lose kids? You know, not kids but teachers, because they
Or we
can.
gain kids too from wanting
Even
to come.
kids, yeah.
From wanting, there's a lot of kids that have extracurricular. They do a lot of different things. If we jump on it, beat the schools around us, it could bring kids to our district.
You can't tell me that most all school districts are not kicking this.
Right.
I'm sure the conversations happen in every.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We even talked about it, what, a year or 2
We did. We talked about that night in
at
our interview. And again, at the time, it was still very new.
But if you look at the grand scheme, we're not taking instructional minutes away from kids. We're actually giving them some more instructional minutes by being more strategic with how we plan it. As far as with PLCs now, we're taking PLCs out of during the day to do it during that Friday. You know, we're not taking those instructional minutes away from the kids. They're going to get more instructional minutes. So teachers are still going to be teaching based if they were operating on a 5-day calendar within 4-day.
And this will help have teachers make themselves accountable where, you know, if you're not doing what you need to do, you're going to come work, you know, and that may get them to start doing what they need to do.
Well, we
because all
actually kind of
benefit that way.
experimented with that because we had a group that before, and I'm not going to say it out loud, but it was either President's Day, because we had a MLK Day and President's Day. We had a group that wasn't quite getting their work done. I think I was bluffing, or we were bluffing. But we basically said, if you don't get it done, you're going to come to work on Monday.
And they got it done.
And not only that, they just said it takes 4 to 5 years to show improvement. So I don't think that it's not saying, well, if you don't get your work done. I understand that, but I also think that we have to have faith in the people that, you know, we're hiring. And it's a process, and we have to allow them to, teach their grow.
Well, after you put that survey out today, I'm quite sure they're all going to wait.
But
tomorrow
that's
to see
why
what
I
happens.
tried really hard,
Probably
Melissa, to
texting
put in capital letters, and I was a little hesitant because I don't like getting people's hopes up, right? But I also don't think it's fair to him not ask them.
Right.
No,
and I think that's great. But I'm saying, I'm sure after tonight, they're all would. If y'all weren't here, wouldn't you be wanting to know what did they pick? What did they decide?
Oh,
And then
they're wanting to know.
yeah, and then plus, I think it's a great tool for
How's it going?
recruitment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, as a teacher, teach it in a 4-day week, it does put a fire under you because you know that you have to meet these requirements. So it's going to help. The teachers are going to know you don't have time to waste around
Don't you have-
talking about stuff.
Bernal?
And he was at a 4-day.
That's what I was about to talk about.
But
That's something I want to say.
That's what, when I was trying to think you had a teacher.
And I mean, for me, it was a benefit because our attendance did go up. Your time in the classroom, you didn't have those issues because those kids knew that they were going to have that Friday. And it's also a good time if teachers wanted to pull their kids in, they could and have small groups. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility to it, and it's not.
And I was genuinely, once I put that survey out, like I'm glad Trey and Nadine are here.
I do want to say something when I get a chance.
But I was also, I didn't want to mob of teachers here because I didn't want y'all to make a decision for the wrong reason. Does that make sense? And I'm glad y'all are here. I think y'all should always come. I think you learn a lot by being here. But that's why I was a little hesitant because I didn't want y'all to make a decision because there were 60 teachers out here. I didn't think that would be fair to y'all, but also.
So what did you tell them not to come?
No, I just trusted
Don't come.
that I thought it was the right thing to gauge them, and I just trusted that it was all going to work the way it did. So you got 30 seconds.
Okay. So talking about what teachers have to do, and I think of two things that take the most time: gradebook and lesson plans. We have that 4-day work week, so we can get to the rigor that we need to for our lessons. And we actually have time to develop those lessons. That's my big thing. I will tell you, as a teacher, and I'm not sure that you're down the same way, Saturday, I'm up. I'm making lesson plans for the week. And it's hard. And that's, for me, having that time, having Mr. Bernal, he came from Lockney, from a 4-day week to a 5-day week, and listening to the stress, like, I got to get my gradebook done, I got to get my grades done, I got to get all these things done, and still do all the work a 5-day work week. That's what I think of, is I think of the time that we get to better assist our students.
I just don't want to be on the outside looking in, and I feel like that if we kick this can down the road and say, well, we'll look at it later, then, I think that the sooner the better.
It's always better to be first than
I
last.
think even our high school kids would appreciate it. Mr. Ginsburg.
Some of them could go to work. That's the other thing I thought is if they got jobs, they go to
have
work.
that work and get off at 10, 11, and then come in, or they already missed because they're tired or they're.
So what do you do on like
Only
volleyball
tired
and baseball where they go play a Thursday tournament?
Give me a break.
And then a lot of times they'll do the Thursday round, and then they're off Friday. There's no, they try to school, there's no round.
They come
And
out
they
and
go
do
back
it
Saturday.
there.
So technically they're Thursday, Friday off for 2 weeks.
Right, but that kind of goes with what I was saying about, so you're limited to 2 volleyball, 2 basketball tournaments a year. That's why I wanted to do Fridays because, let's say you were doing Mondays. That kid now misses Monday, Thursday, and Friday. You see what I mean?
They're
And
going to miss Thursday, Friday.
twice a year, though, right? Because you only have 2 tournaments.
Could you tell? You could almost have the AD look at, say, hey, since we're with this schedule, you need to find a Friday, Saturday tournaments, or play late,
Sure, if they
Thursday.
exist. There's really not a lot that happens on Thursdays. Even when we have the tournaments, a lot of the times, and your daughter played. Did she miss? She probably missed Thursday twice this year.
Twice.
Yeah. You do miss Friday. That goes back to why. Because I did, in the things you have there, I had a lot of teachers that didn't know they thought we had just thought about this at noon today and shot it out. We're like, well, why not Monday? I think you're making, if you did it Monday, you're making a decision because want athletics to be able to be there versus knowing they're not going to be there. Does that make sense? I just thought it was the more sound decision.
And it's been proven that you're absent, you're most days absent, both by teacher and student. Through research is Fridays. Your most discipline issues by students is on Fridays.
At the end of the
The
year,
part of the week,
end of the
because
week,
by the
they're
time
like
those kids are fed up for the week,
hyper
they're burnt out, they're ready to go home, they're on edge, teachers are on edge. So your discipline goes up on Fridays. So that's the reason why a lot of other districts pick Fridays.
Before I sit down, I do need to go through this with y'all. I know y'all are tired of listening to me talk, but March's board meeting falls on the Thursday of spring break. And Rebecca and I looked at either delaying it all the way to the end of March or having it Monday, March 10th. So if y'all just check your calendars and see if we could do it then. If you want to work our track meets on March 11th and 13th, I think Rebecca has told me she wants to work one of them. I don't remember if it was one or both. But just let me know, and I'll get it to Ms. McCall. If you signed up for Senior Serve, which I turned in yours, Melissa, Ernest, I think I turned in yours for Senior Serve.
Yes.
I think I turned in your forms. That's on Monday.
Did you pay for mine also?
I did not. And I told Kathy, you may have to reach out to him because I can't. I'm not. You know,
We have to request jalapenos.
I barely paid for mine.
I'm taking donations.
And then spring break, March 17th. You have any more questions for me? Thank y'all. That was long. Thank y'all for being patient and listening.
On the gaggle, one more thing, just because I want to know. How does those numbers look? Are they still the same, you first did the
What?
gaggle?
Oh no, yeah, we don't get too many updates, and it dropped a little the second month, but it picked back up when we came back from Christmas. I thought you were talking about Senior Serve numbers because we went from 8, and then we put out a lot of announcements. I did the little radio deal, and I think we ended up with like 200. So it skyrocketed.
Oh, wow.
Kathy was like, Richie, we're going to have to cancel. I said, no, we're not. You got to have faith. You say this every year.
Nobody has any more questions? Okay, now we'll go to board action items. First one is deliberation and possible action to approve Lamesa ISD wellness policy.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Second is deliberation and possible action to approve Lamesa ISD school calendar for 2025-26 school year.
Make a motion to approve Lamesa ISD school calendar 2025-2026 4-day school.
Second.
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 Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. Third is deliberation and possible action to add, revise, or delete local policies CAA, CDA, CYs, DH, EHB, EHBB, FFG, and GKA as offered by TASB Policy Services for consideration according to the instruction sheet for TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 124.
I make a motion. That's presented. I'm not saying all that again.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Fourth is deliberation and possible action to approve the government capital financing SRO vehicle bus
Make a
requisition.
motion we approve as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
You didn't care about none of that other talk. You were like...
Okay, if there's nothing else, any more business to come before the board, we are adjourned.
Actually, you got